Probably time to get started. Sorry about the delays, nerds. Everything is freaking chaos lately, I'm not gonna lie. Doing my best to stay on top of it, but yeah, everything is changing, and it's changing really fast. What do I got my Twitch page? It might be because I changed my handle and I haven't updated any of my Twitch stuff for a while. I have it on my to-do list, but it's in the section of my to-do list, like under the cutoff where I keep delaying it, like constantly. Yeah, I saw a lot of people mentioning this before. Outages suck. Happens to the best of us. That reminds me, I wanted to see an email about an outage that a different sponsor had. You know what? I'm going to out this one. I'm going to tell you guys about this one. I just got an email from one of my sponsors, specifically because they had an outage and they were concerned that I might feel as though I'm misleading my audience because, like, you guys might get burnt if you were on the service after hearing it about me and then immediately experience an outage. It wasn't Railway. It was DN Simple. We just got another ad with them approved, and they are so stressed about this outage. They're taking it so seriously that they offered for us to just end the sponsorships if it makes us feel more comfortable, because they don't want us to feel like we're recommending something unstable or like that doesn't meet our audience bar, which is particularly funny because this is exactly why they meet our bar. Like, DN Simple, trying to find the right way to like put into words just how chill these guys are, but like they care so much. Like, the founders are like a married couple that's been together for at least 20 years. Like, the way they finish each other's sentences was the cutest thing in the world. They sent me a care package from their home address in Florida. I love these guys. They're the best. And the fact that they care this much and are that worried, it shows just how seriously they take these things. It's silly, but like I've said this before, like when you handle outages and regressions correctly, it builds more loyalty than if you didn't have an outage in the first place. And yeah, they are continuing to maintain that bar. It was a bug in a dep. It wasn't even theirs. So like one of their deps had a known bug. That's... yeah, the length of it was a little sad to see, but like good report, great people. I've not watched the video about Suno. I've been meaning to for a bit. Hi, YouTube chat. The AI's Discord hate, I have not seen that. Oh, we got a new risk report from Anthropic. Oh boy. That was something I want to look into later. I do have to leave somewhat earlier than usual. Like I have to end probably around 5:30. I'm gonna set an alarm for that so I don't forget. Set an alarm for 5:30 p.m. Cool. That is set. Oh, what gear am I doing now? Oh yeah, I saved this. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Yeah, I've been playing with this too. My team has even more. We have a pending sponsor deal with them to talk more about that, which is exciting too. They gave us early access. I really like their way of doing the early access where like it is exclusive-ish, but it's totally okay if I just talk about it. Like they don't care, which is awesome. They're doing that really, really right. Let's go through all the subscribers that I missed when we were getting started. Find your project's unique local IPs rather than just localhost. This is a very good idea, and I might set up something to do this automatically for us. We got JD Pava here with the 7 months of support. Krista J with the 2 months of support. A treasure train. God. Product direction at Twitch is a little rough. I have a fun thing to show you. You sent me this article about Entire. Anyways. I love the link flood. Apple delayed Siri again. Oh boy. Okay, vampire. Interesting. We'll look into that more later. This is interesting because glm-5 doesn't have vision, which is one of the worst parts for it, in my opinion. Yeah, I saw CJE's lunacy. Super cool. I need to deal with my teabag really quick. Give me 1 sec, guys. Sorry about that. The Discord situation, like the age gating thing. I've talked about those things before. I don't have anything new to add. I'll check your screen in a sec, Maria. I'm catching up on so much shit. Of course, glm-5 is the best open model. It's the newest, and they killed it with the training on it. Let's thank all the subs I missed while that was all going on. We got Dogpaw Hat, the legend, near in fucking 4 years, 43 months. Goddamn. Best model counter, 78. And WLFT with the 2 months of tier 1. Arisa Bogle here with the 4 months. NZE with the 10 bomb. Thank you so much for the gift subs, guys. Always appreciate the support. Wendro with the 5 bomb. Y'all are so generous with the gifts. NCE and Wendro always fighting for those #1 spots. Muzdev here with the delayed sub, 4 months in. Appreciate it. Logan Mulligan showing up with a 5 bomb as well. You guys are going crazy today. Appreciate it a ton. So what I guess it makes some sense because I haven't streamed for over a week, but it's still really nice and I appreciate it. Sorry I missed the weekend. It was a rough weekend. Crow 145 is finally out with JPEG XL. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I have a queued video about Chrome somewhere in here. Cool. Thank you. Cheese Toast X with the Prime. Thank you for that. CD Dev here with the 40 months legend. Zella with the Prime for 7 months. Trout Gundam here with the 14. Gusty Cube with the 5 bomb. Lego Ben with the Prime. And Chris with the 5 bomb as well. You got so many people gifting today. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much. Codex app pinned. Damn right. I have a hotkey to go straight to it. I saw there was yet another GitHub outage. Oof. Good link. Who linked this? Maria, of course. Thank you for the link. It's kind of the wrong link. Whatever. Works. Does its job. Cool. I will read through proposals in a bit. I only can film a little bit today, though, because I am very limited on time. I have 3.5, not even hours. You have about 3 hours to film, so I need to get some stuff out that's like pressing, and then figure out after. I'll probably have to go live again this week. I definitely have to go live this weekend. We'll figure out the schedule. How bad are my next 2 days? I know they're bad, but like, is it like I'm going to die bad, or is it I need to move some things around bad? Okay, looks like Friday's relatively open. I'll try to maintain that. Oh no, that's next week, not this week. Yeah, never mind. This Friday's not that open. Yeah, there is not enough time in the week for all of the things that I need to do. There's not enough time in the day even. I've never been so strapped for fucking time, like in my life. It's, yeah, things have been rough. I'm not gonna lie. Just the amount of shit going on, having an EA for 2 weeks and having them quit. I'm so behind on so much shit. We'll catch up. We'll get there. But like, sorry to everybody who I'm behind with like emails and DMs and things on. I am so fucking behind. It's insane. It's good stuff overall. Like, all of the change happening is for the better. Like, things are going to ramp up and be really cool really fast. But it's the sheer volume of it. Like, everything I've been doing and working on started working and also demanding more of my attention all at like the exact same time, which is just always a lot. Did Minimax M2.5 drop? Did they really drop this today as well? You fucking kidding? I had early access to 2.5, but I haven't had any time to test it yet. This doesn't look official. It's weird. They're like showing it's usable and things, but they haven't done like the official announcement post. I'm a little confused about the status of 2.5. Haven't done it on API yet? Okay. Oh, I forgot to ping Discord. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting something. Everyone, nerds, we are live talking new models. Yes, Twitch. Thank you. Shazzy for solid. That sounds really promising. Super cool. Good shit. Congrats. Get shit done seems a little dated now. Probably works well, but I find that I don't need things like that. I'd rather just do a better prompt. Not a fan of like weekly style, like cadency content. I'd rather just do things and when they're relevant. And we're on a daily video cadence roughly, so I want to maintain that. I'll take a look at all the links in a sec, Maria. Still got to thank people. We got Storm here at the 17 months. Vinay SC with the 4 months of support. Fuck yeah, thank you. Nemesis Codex with the 7 months of support. Just Isabel hitting 28 now. Legend. William with the 12 months hitting the 1 year mark. Thanks for inspiring so many of us. I'm just here shitposting and talking about tech. I'm happy it's inspiring though, man. Appreciate it. We got Ans here. Anesium with the Prime. Thank you for that. And then Wire Transfer with the 1 year. Thank you all on YouTube for hanging out as well. Yes, I'm reading YouTube chat, just not anywhere near as much. I saw the Windsurf model leaderboard. I know of Prime Stream, we were going to hang at some point this week. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, just because our schedules are both so chaotic, but we are hoping to, if all goes well. Why changing Tori? Story for another time, but the TLDR version, I'm seeing if I can stuff Chromium into it. I like its API better, I've learned, than Electron for the like other side of things. Yeah. Chromium's just a better engine. And on Linux in particular, the web embed, like it's funny that Tori's the thing all the Linux people shill, but Tori's basically unusable on Linux because of the UI. I don't know if any of these models have dropped officially yet. Yeah, WebKit GTK is awful. It's so bad. Today, your Tansec Start project didn't run because port 42069 was already being used by something else. Beautiful, Maple. Good to see you. Hope all is well. Edson96 with the Prime as well. Autumn Light with the potatoes. Appreciate that a ton. From you above. I'm sorry I'm so behind on chat, guys. There's a lot going on today and in general. So you got a job or somewhere techie? Fuck yeah. Came from open source work. Still very early. Delete a major portion of a coding project you spent the past few weeks on. If you're out of credits, that does hurt a bit. I found that I feel less bad about losing and deleting code than I ever have before, which is nice. But I also like didn't really used to lose code because I'm a Git lunatic. But yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear. Obicode is free usage for K2.5. I am familiar with that at the very least. K2.5 is a great model. We got Chikorita here with the 14 months and only Dole here with the tier 1. Thank you all again for the support. I'm not invested in any of the Chinese labs. ZAI follows me on Twitter. I might have had a DM or email about early access for glm-5, but if I did, I didn't see it and I didn't respond. So didn't do any early access on this one. Only Dole, thank you for the sub. And Krish, the legend, 33 months in now. Thank you for that. Okay, we need to figure out what we're filming ASAP. Obviously, we need to do glm-5. Big one. What are the other links? We got artificial analysis post. This, I don't think I'll have time to film a video on today. ZAI rug pull. I've heard people referencing this and some drama on Discord with it. I would like more info if you guys have that. I have not had a chance to try Composer 1.5. I should just do a list of all the things I have not had a chance to meaningfully try yet so you guys understand. I have like 2 early access things I can't talk about that I have not been able to try. I have Composer 1.5 that I've not been able to try. I have 2 other apps. Well, one's an app. It's the intent thing from Augment Code I've not been able to try. Ben's working on it right now and is apparently impressed overall. I have not had a chance to really try. I was going to do Black Box because they're hitting us up for sponsorships. I haven't had a chance to try that. I have not had a chance to go back to Foundry. I promised the team I would, and I haven't. The list is... I'm actually going to make this list. Give me a sec to get a fresh page in here. Things I need to try still. NDA 1. Intent by Augment. Foundry. CLI. Minimax M2.5. Fuck, what else? Black Box. I think the other things that are like top priority for me to test. Yo, Alpha, thank you for the additional 5 bomb. Appreciate the support a ton. You guys are going crazy with the gifts today. Anthropic there's a weird like pile of researchers leaving across all the labs right now. It seems like Anthropic and XAI were hit the hardest. You're not tuned with the 35 months. Thank you for that. Yeah, 2 vids a day is not unrealistic, sadly. Oh, so only Light and Pro can, or so Light and Pro can't access 5. They can only access the older one. Interesting. That's really cool, Edson. I've been using the skills package from Vercel. It's been pretty good. Yo, J Gold. Hope you're doing well. Oh yeah, Pi. I do need to try Pi. Yo, Naman. Good to see you, man. I'm very familiar with what Pi is and the cool things it potentially can do, but I've not had a chance to really try it. Okay, let's figure out what we're filming today for sure. The Heroku's dead. Definitely needs to be done ASAP. So I'll put that here. glm-5 is the highest priority, obviously. Label priority. Neri's not going to happen today. Soon, though. But it's not pressing news. Oh, what's Pi? Oh, Naman, you'll love this. It's a coding agent that's point is to be customized. So you build all the, like, it doesn't have much built in, but you can build all the things you want into it. It adapts to your workflow. It's the philosophy that the ClaudeBot team has, well, OpenClaw now, and I believe it's actually built on top of it. Yo, Jossum95 with the 5 bomb. Thank you for the support there. Not at all like OpenCode. No. OpenCode is trying really hard to be everything you need. Pi is trying to be nothing you need, but everything you need to build what you need. Yeah, Pi only has write, read, edit, and bash. That's it. Yeah, they're running out of GPUs. That was my understanding as well. Oh, is GitHub down again? Self-hosted runners are still working when the large built-in ones are not. I think I'm going to, not now, but in the near future, GitHub is a corpse. GitHub isn't dying, it's dead. Mention external runners. Code space thing that Pierre is working on. Is that what their URL is? Is it code.storage? Yeah. Every X GHCEO. Almost caught up to where we wanted it to be 6 years ago, but not, or too little, too late. So perf fixes, what was, yeah, stacked diffs. Well, all right, plus dev and review. Cool. That's enough for me to make a real video about that. Actually, constant outages, grab the unofficial status page. I don't think they fumbled VS Code. I think they exclusively fumbled GitHub. Yeah, I saw Oz as a thing. I definitely want to check it out. I got Ben from Warp offered to show me early and get me onboarded, but again, negative time. Jesus fuck. I've gotten so much inbound shit since starting. Like, I've not had a chance. Yeah. Oh. Code Source has a GitHub? Yeah, of course it does. The AI.com domain's oldish news. Or watch later. What do you got for me, Maria? Interesting. I'll take a look at that. There's a lot of weirdness with 5.3 codecs on GitHub. They were talking about it yesterday. Yeah, and you gotta go there to start with GitHub. Absolutely agree. Interesting. This will take a look at later. We'll look through everything else you've dropped, Maria. Then we're going to go through everything that we got from Shavam, and then we'll get started filming. I don't really want to talk more about OpenAI ad stuff. I feel like I already have the Vista or the video, and there's not much to add there. Cherry picker cells, cool. What's this guy? Ooh, best omniscience score. This will be good to have for that. Thank you. That's all previous stream. Siri delayed. So blog for GLM. Spatial reasoning stuff's cool. You know what? I'll grab that. Why not? I think that's everything. It got compacted? Okay, if there's anything important, let me know. Agent skill spreading hallucinated NPX commands. Oh boy. Oh, nice. Thank you for the Simon post. This is, yeah, I saw this before. I'll put this in the why AI keeps getting hacked. Jesus Christ, the number of links. Yeah, Vouch seems really cool, especially because like I've been planning on covering the like open source getting killed by by AI. The open source dying. Yeah, this guy. Oh no, it was this one. AI killing OSS. There we go. Cool. Nice. Variant. I am an early investor in Variant. I am happy that they are finally getting further and getting good attention. Ever buying cars seems cool. I don't care about cars, so not necessarily my thing. What are you showing me here? This video has been in my recommendations nonstop, but I have not watched it now. I missed a member here. Thank you, Evilissimo. Thank you for joining on the T3 Club over on YouTube. Okay, so this video is apparently good. Everybody's been saying that. That's probably why it's going so viral, because good videos tend to perform really well as long as you can brand them at all. Let's save that so I'll actually watch it later. I'll re-add so it'll be at the top of the list. Not that I've had any time to fucking watch YouTube. Need to manually count anymore. Well, the site's a little broken. That's funny though. Good shit. Let me thank all the subs I missed while I was doing all that. Did I miss Alpha and Jossam both doing a 5-bomb? I'm so sorry. I'm just so busy with everything else. Thank you both for the support. I appreciate it a ton. 24 months of support. 2 years. Goddamn. Events in June. OpenSauce.live. It's July. This is like the coolest event. So if you can go to that, you have to. Thank you for the resub, by the way, Doctor. Good to see you. We got Spitfire here at the 6 months. Ari with the 7 months. I tried Mugenics. I literally launched it last night, played for like 10 minutes, looked at the clock, saw how late it was, felt really bad, and went to bed. We got Oko here at the Prime, XCSS with the gift sub to Go Seal. Thank you again. I have seen Spacetime. I think I invested. I do have a sponsor deal with them. I've been planning on covering them a lot more in the near future. It's really cool. I think it's a good contrast to Convex while still taking the right lessons. I personally can't imagine using any database other than Convex or Spacetime for anything user-facing right now. Yeah, there's a bunch of these Claude Code profile switchers now, but honestly, I use Claude Code for Claude models and other things for other models. I saw TypeScript beta. I don't know if I have anything to say about it, honestly. I could do a clickbaity for this of like the future of TypeScript. We'll see. You look at the migration. Once you get convex build, it's really hard to go back. Your memory system now works with OpenCode and Codex. Huge, Jason. Congrats. Why do I have investments in everything? Because when I like a product and I like the team that is making the product, I will often invest if I think it increases. Like if I think they are likely to succeed and I could put money in the company, there's a decent chance that I 100x that money, as I have in companies like Cursor, like Lovable, like Foul, and many others. I hate waiting. I don't buy tickets. I'm a presenter. Everything's comp for me for open source. They're really good at taking care of creators. Yep. You try Convex, you literally can't go back. You haven't agents supporting Convex. All of them support Convex. Great. This is actually one of the most common misconceptions. Supabase needs special support because Supabase is a special snowflake. You cannot configure Supabase by code. You have to configure Supabase by their dashboard or by their API, which means agents need specific integrations with it to work. Convex is just code. If you want to integrate Convex with something, you write code and then Convex is integrated. That's the difference. When Theo suggests a product and I use it, or when Theo suggests a product to use and I try it, I get stuck with it. Yep. Well, Yeah, Pac, did that answer your? It wasn't a question, but did that address your concern in a way where you're more interested now? Because like, I want to more deeply understand this confusion so that I can do a better job spreading propaganda against it. Because I don't want the fact that like there's a Supabase button inside of a dashboard for an agent to make people think that it cannot do convex, because that is the opposite of the truth. The skill helps if you're using a model that's bad at convex. I found it doesn't matter as much for something like Opus. It's actually one of the things I like more about Opus than Claude Code, or than Opus than Codex. I should do that video today too. Yeah, they're all leaderboard. You know what? I'll put this in for the 5 versus vid. Cool. It can't do convex. You have a lot of errors. It isn't implemented AI agent stuff by default. I would love examples of what you're talking about here. While you prep that, I'm going to get ready to start filming. We got Jordan Fails with the 1 year. Thank you for that. And then Malek Morans with the tier 1. Sorry, YouTube chat. So S. John, can I make you a mod? There you go. You are now a mod on YouTube chat. No pressure. Not expecting anything from it, but I trust you enough to help with it. Friends with the founder of ZAI. AI, all the AI girlfriend apps are using ZAI behind the scenes with the uncensored API access. Hilarious. I love that you watched the HTML video. I'm so proud of that one. Any advice? Just the fact that you're learning from scratch right now can be an advantage as much as a disadvantage. Don't index too heavily on what's worked in the past. Focus on what's working for you and just keep building and doing things that excite you. For file storage, obviously I like upload thing, but man, there's a lot of file storage options and they all have their catches. I've been deep in file storage again for other stuff and it's been rough. Yo, Solistra with the Prime, thank you for that. We're almost at 3 o'clock and I haven't started filming and I have like 2-ish hours to get real videos done. I was not at CloudCon Vienna. I was at CloudCon in SF. Okay, let's get ready to film. Marker offset 0049 20. This is against terms of service on Twitch, sadly. This also looks interesting. We'll save for later. It's a countdown. It makes it easier to keep things in sync. Celie 6791 with the 3 months. Time flies. Damn right. Design Arena. This checks out. I will grab this for the versus video. Yeah, the AI, you got to make sure you have all your fingers and not too many. What's this? Oh, okay. We'll take it. Yeah, the file storage is definitely not a top priority for Convex. Funny enough, they reached out to us forever ago to integrate upload thing into Convex as an option because they know that file storage isn't their main focus, similar to auth not being their main focus. Is the delay in codecs over API cybersecurity concerns? It's a big portion of it for sure. Yeah, uploading Convex could be cool, but like, I have so many thoughts on file storage and like things around it at this point. Maybe in the future we'll do that, but I want to rethink file storage one last time. Yeah, the Convex FS stuff's really cool. It's not quite as stable as I need it to be for my use cases, but it is really, really cool. I adopted it super hard for some projects and ended up having to move them off. T3 Canvas was heavily using that for a minute. But yeah, I ended up moving off and going back to a hacked version of the image optimization on Vercel. And I believe I'm just using standard convex file storage for this as well. Works pretty well, but yeah. Yeah, it's easier to build your own CMS than integrate existing ones. I feel you so hard on that, you have no idea. We got Dip here using Convex with the WorkOS auth kit. Yep, very good. What's even better, though, not to talk any smack on sponsors, Shoe is awesome. I've been using this for all my side projects recently. It's surprisingly good. How do you get access to T3 Canvas? Chris, hit me up probably tomorrow, maybe Friday. I am way too busy to do anything like that right now, but in the near future, I'll sneak some good friends in. It's easy to rack up a pretty crazy bill with it. Like I've sat there and like generated things for a thumbnail, ended up doing like $50 of inference. So yeah. Where does space-time fit in versus convex? Really good question. I need to stop getting distracted. I'll answer this quick, then we're going to get ready to film. Space-time is much stronger. I'll just pull up the site. Space-time's focus is absurd performance with the sync. So things like a shared cursor experience where you have multiple people in an app at the same time moving around in it and you want to see who is where, like the Figma style, space-time is killer for that. Anything where your priority isn't the history, it's what is the state right now, space-time is really, really good for that. Convex is way better at traditional application development. Sync is more a... I'm trying to remember how to put this. Like, in Convex, sync feels as much like a way to reduce bugs as it feels like a... Like, Convex is... Sorry, I'm getting distracted by chat. Convex feels like sync is a way to like reduce bugs and make your application development easier. Sync with space-time is the core value prop. It's how do we make the fastest possible thing by moving logic to the database so that I can hammer it with absurd levels of throughput without having to worry. It's like if a given user can do thousands of writes a minute, space-time would make a ton of sense. If you're doing a more traditional, like I wouldn't build a Twitter clone on space-time, I'd build it on Convex. I wouldn't build a Figma clone on Convex, I'd build it on space-time. And no, I don't have any beef with the space-time. I actually really, really like them. You might be thinking of Supabase. Is Shoe live? No. The Shoe works. It's not live. It is up on the internet, and it can be used. I have a lot more I want to do to it first. That's why the open source isn't open source yet. I don't want people thinking it's like officially out yet when it's not. I should put a like homepage thing that says we're not ready yet. You know what? I'll do that quick. Let's kick off a terminal somewhere for this. CD. I don't have Shoe here. Publishing fixes, git push. Make sure we're all synced. Cool. I'll just CC this. Put a super early whip use at your own risk banner, as well as a coming soon next to the GitHub link. Use your front-end design skill to make it look nice. Cool. Let that run. Will I lose my sponsorship over Shoe? I've already checked with them. They think it's really cool. Shoe is not meant to compete with those services. It's meant to be the easiest solution for your vibe-coded bullshit. And then you can move over to Clerk, WorkOS, Auth0, Convex Auth, whatever else you want to use. You can whenever you feel like. The point of Shoe is to be 2 lines of code to have auth. Oh God, Mac spaces. We're not going to talk about that one today. We have too much to talk about already. I'm working on too many things. ZI has their own codec style app. Interesting. Very interesting. Interesting. Good to know. I don't know what plan I'm on with them. You know, let's figure this out quick before I film. Why not? Do that and that. Let's I already have it downloaded. Make sure I have a plan. Give me a sec. I have a plan with them. I just don't know what plan I have with them. Okay. Maybe it's a different account. Sorry, guys. Give me a sec. I need an easier way to share something different when I'm doing this. It's one of the things I've wanted to do for a while is set up like a blur. Do I not even have this here? That is annoying. Z.ai. Please have things in my account. Okay, that is not the right one. Maybe it's this one. Nope. Maybe. Nope. Okay, cool. So I was using the GitHub account. I just need to subscribe. A little annoying, but I can do that. Grab one. Monthly. Think I gotta do the max, right? Like I have to. You know what? Let's start filming with that. Marker glm-5. Probably not gonna cover CDance too. Don't have too much to say. Modal, I saw, has an endpoint for it. That'll be fun to play with later. Shoe is built to work great with Convex. If you go to docs.shoe.dev, you can see the Convex starter guide here. I even put a hook in the React package for it. You copy paste this. You use the use auth hook for the create shoe convex auth. You pass this to Convex. And then you can do everything you need to. Cool. Let's get started. Yeah, Convex and Opus is a much better combo. Okay. So I'm not sure where this will go in the video. I trust you to figure it out, FaZe. If we're gonna give this model, an honest shot, especially this early when it's not available in all of the platforms just yet, we gotta do the max plan. $80 a month is a little high for a sub that's not gonna be my main, but I want to make sure we're testing this to its fullest. Okay. I'll move in. If you ever thought that these if you needed proof that I'm not being paid by ZAI, here you go. I just paid them. The only people paying me for today's video is today's sponsor. Cool. Now you even have a cut for that. Cool. That is set up. Let's do an intro. They have an open model only section here. They don't. Artificial analysis. They're a filter for only open weight. Okay, here we are. Nice. The official announcement post. Cool. Intro time. Get your counter ready, folks, because there's another new model. glm-5 is blowing me away. Just to get out front, or just to jump in front of the concerns is, I want to word this point. Clear these out because I don't need them anymore. I want that last one. Cool. Just to jump in front of everybody's usual question, is it better than Opus 4.6? Is it better than Codex 5.3? No, it's an open weight model from a much smaller lab in China. That said, it is by far the best open weight model I have seen, especially for code stuff. Kimi K2 or Kimi K2.5 was incredible. It's mind-blowing how good it is for an open weight model you can go download the files for and run yourself. But glm-5 is a meaningful improvement. It's neck and neck with models like 5.2 Codex and Opus 4.5. Obviously, the most recent things like Opus 4.6 are still slightly edging it out, but at the very least, I've had a much better experience with it than I have with Gemini 3 Pro. That said, I really want to push it to its limits. They also released a they also put out a desktop app similar to They also put out a desktop app similar to the one that OpenAI put out for Codex that is very, very exciting. But obviously, this only works with their hosting because it's their product. So you probably need to sign up for that, right? That's where you'll cut to the subscription part phase. Cool. Cool. We are in. So we're going to test out the Zcode app in just a minute because we're definitely going to dive deep on the Zcode app, but I've been doing work behind the scenes while prepping for stream today, running very real work, including this migration for an old code base that actually ran for an hour for free. This UI might look familiar, like, open code, but if you look at the top here, it's Kilo Code. Kilo's a sponsor, so count for some bias there. They recently forked open code to make their own CLI, and it's been pretty cool because you can use it with the Kilo sub. They also were the first provider to have consistent support for this new model. And not only are they supporting glm-5, they're supporting it for free. And it seems like a handful of providers are doing the same thing, including companies like Modal, where they have an API endpoint where they are hosting this new model that you can use for free right now. In the future, do I expect it to stay free? Probably not. According to OpenRouter, the The current pricing I'm seeing on open router is about $3 per mil out and $1 per mil in. That puts it at a third to a fourth the price of Sonnet and a fifth to a sixth the price of Opus. It's a really, really good value for what it is, but also uptime's not great because these just dropped. A lot of the platforms have an insane amount of latency, like 7+ seconds. But this will all get resolved in very short time. It tends to when these new models drop. What we really want to care about now is the performance, not the speed, but the capabilities. And the fact this is the first open weight model that I've successfully run a job that took over an hour for without issues just absolutely blew me away. And I watched it as it was running. It did a lot of smart things. This project the project I threw this at immediately was Ping. If you're not familiar, Ping is the video call app that I built to get into Y Combinator and make if you're not familiar, I built Ping a while back. It's my Y Combinator company. It's the product I made it. If you're not familiar with Ping, I built this a while ago right after leaving Twitch to make it easier to do live collaborations. It's used by everybody from like Linus Tech Tips to Elgato to the Xbox team. It was made to make live streaming collaborations easier. Still proud of the product, but it has not been our main focus because it turns out creator tools don't make a whole lot of money. So we've been focusing on everything else we're building. As such, this code base has gotten out of date, is a little generous. It's not a fun code base to work in anymore, if I'm being real. A lot of it is because I made early bets on things that have changed a lot since, like really old versions of TRPC. Migrating this code base to modern tools is one of my favorite challenges to throw models at because it's not something they really can do, but the closer they get, the more interesting they are to me. As I mentioned in my Codex 5.3 video, it was the first model that was able to actually make a working final editor. As I mentioned in my Codex 5.3 video, it was the first model that could make meaningful progress in this, and it did some novel things around patch packaging in order to make it work and unblock itself throughout. It's really impressed with 5.3's performance. But I just ran it with GLM, and it seems like it is doing very well. It hasn't done the last phase of this migration just yet, but I want to see how it runs for now. Cool. Let's see. We don't have great Firefox support because it is a media product and Firefox's AV layer is garbage. Okay, this is a common error that I get. Every single one of the tools I've used for this has had this particular bug. Is there anything else causing the render to fail, or is it just that? Okay, it is just that. Actually, this is a great first issue I have with glm-5. Paste, fix it, send. Okay, it's a little confused or the servers are lagging. It doesn't have vision. I know that's silly. It's a code model. Why would you need it to have vision? I paste images all of the time. It is one of the main things I do when I'm writing code. I would honestly guess that 20 to 50% of my prompts have an image in them. So not having that sucks. It's one of the things that I loved about Communicate 2.5 is they finally fixed it. I am getting an error. Please fix it. Cool. We will let it do this while I look at other tasks that I ran. Jesus Christ, this model is willing to just work, which is really, really cool. It's nice having an open weight model that can go for this long. Oh, here was the first time I tried to paste an image. You're saying the drop down menu is working, but I can't see the image. Yeah, annoying, but it works. While I let this job run in the background, let's read a little bit about what they have to say about the model, as well as all of our friends who review these things. Let's start with their blog post. From vibe coding to agentic engineering. A little clickbaity, but honestly fair. These models are good for things other than like one-shotting projects from scratch now, and it's been really impressive. What are you tagging me at? And they probably just merged the models. I wouldn't read too much into that. Yeah. We're launching glm-5. Retake on this. I feel like the vibe coding to agentic engineering title's a bit clickbaity, but I understand why they're saying it. This, from my experience so far, feels like a meaningful jump in what the open weight models are capable of, from like one-shotting cool-looking demos over to something a little more useful that can go a lot longer and do harder things. Like, I've never seen an open weight model that can do migration work like I've had glm-5 doing, and I can't wait to see if that work ends up working. We are launching glm-5, targeting complex system engineering and long horizon agentic tasks. Yeah, I can tell. Scaling is still one of the most important ways to improve the intelligence efficiency of AGI. Compared to GLM 4.5, 5 scales from 355 billion parameters, 32 bil active, to 744 billion parameters, 40 bil active. If you're not familiar with what this means, it's the mappings inside of the model for what points to what and how strongly it does. The parameters are basically like tokens and vectors that map together what should happen based on what text you already have. For reference, Kimi K2.5 is a 1 trillion parameter model. 744 bil is close, which means this model is going to be huge. I thought they showed the size here. Do they not? I was only in the files tab. Okay, yeah. 1.5 terabytes. Yeah. Yeah. Versus 4.7, which was 700 gigs. But they do have FP8 versions and Flash versions that are lighter of the old model. That this 4.7 FP8 version is only 360 gigs. And 4.7 Flash is a measly tiny 62 gigs. But you're not going to be running this model on local hardware. I see a lot of people who assume that open weight means they can run it on their computers. You're not running a terabyte model on your own hardware. This is not something that is accessible to people at their houses. This is more useful to the hosts, or this is more useful to the hosting platforms like Modal, like Render. This is more useful to the hosting platforms like Modal and others that can host these open weight models to provide them for us to use. And potentially places like Cerebras or Grok with a Q being able to do their own versions of the models that are significantly faster. One fun thing here is that they appear to be, I don't know, is it not? They don't have it linked there. Yeah. Cool. One nice detail now that appears is that it's licensed as a proper MIT license. It doesn't have any of the usual carve-outs as far as I can see. Things like you have to call it out that you're using us or pay us if you have a certain number of users. None of those weird things, which is cool to see. Back to the blog post. Oh, yeah, the parameters thing. So more parameters means the model is bigger. For example, the GPT OSS 120B model is around 80 to 90 gigs. I can run that on my laptop locally, but it's 120 bil params, so there's less intelligence when there's less parameters, generally speaking. The more parameterization you have, the more value you have, the more data you have in the model, the more intelligence is capable of displaying, generally speaking. Obviously, over time, the amount of intelligence you can squeeze into a specific size changes. But for now, bigger model definitely means more potential for capability. But this 40B active piece, this is mixture of experts. What this means is that on a given request, instead of going through all 740 billion parameters, the 40 bil section that is the most likely to be relevant to what you're doing, that's what's traversed instead. Mixture of experts models have been pretty prominent for a while now. It seems to be what everyone is doing because you can have a super intelligent model that has knowledge of different languages, different sciences, all these different things that don't necessarily need to be traversed. Like, you don't need to go through all of the Chinese data in a given model when you're responding in English. You don't need to go through all of theoretical physics when you're writing a Hello World app. That's effectively how Mixture of Experts works. 40 bill active is pretty cool, but again, the size of this model is going to make it inaccessible for a lot of people. Also, their pre-training is insane at 28.5 trillion tokens. glm-5 also integrates DeepSeek sparse attention, significantly reducing deployment cost while preserving long context capability. DeepSeek's research has been pushing a lot of things, and it's cool to see them call it out here. Definitely is going to help with the performance. They've also made huge improvements to their reinforcement learning, which is how you tune the model after you've made it, so to speak. Reinforcement learning aims to bridge the gap between competence and excellence in pre-trained models. However, deploying it at scale for LLMs is challenging due to RL training inefficiency. To this end, we've developed Slime, a novel asynchronous RL infra that substantially improves training throughput and efficiency, enabling more fine-grained post-training iteration. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm assuming, I haven't looked into this yet, and it's not what we're here for, they found a way to run a lot of RL at the same time instead of it being like somewhat linear. That could be really, really cool. Excited to see how it works. What I'm more excited to see, though, are these benchmarks. Humanity's last exam, it beat out pretty much everything other than Google's models without tools, but with tools, it won. What's really interesting here is you can see the gap of without to with tools for this benchmark, because with tools, it can like do research, write code, stuff like that, instead of just spitting out text. You'll notice here that the ZAI models do like 40 to 50% better with tools. Anthropic models do 20 to 30% better. But for some reason, it looks like the Google and the OpenAI models don't anywhere near as much. I have my suspicions about that, especially the Google models. They don't use tools great. Then we have SWE Bench Verified, which it got neck and neck with Opus and Codex. I believe this is 4.5 and 5.2. Yeah, it is. They made these before 4.6 dropped. This happens a lot. And 5.3 isn't on the API yet, so it's really hard to bench against. So this is the best we can do now. But honestly, both Opus 4.5 and 5.2 are more than good enough for meaningful day-to-day work. 5.3 is a cool improvement. I do use it as my daily driver right now. 5.2 is still a phenomenal model. Opus 4.5 is arguably better than Opus 4.6. Getting neck and neck with that on SWE Bench is huge. SWE Bench Verified, it is not only neck and neck with Anthropic, it beat out Codex 5.2 and it crushed Gemini 3 Pro. And in Terminal Bench, it beat out both Gemini and Codex and is again neck and neck with Anthropic. Vending Bench is the benchmark. How much money can it make running a vending machine? It did really well there. Tau Bench, it did very well too. This is a tool calling bench. MCP Atlas, it got right up there with 5.2. And then Browse Comp, which is a browser use benchmark, it got the best score, as far as I know, of all time, which is really, really crazy. CC Bench V2, 4.7 versus 5 versus Opus 4.5. This is a benchmark that they made in order to test long-running tasks. That seems to be the real focus for them here, which is super cool to see from an open-weight model. Build success rate has bumped a ton from previous models. End-to-end correctness has bumped meaningfully as well. For backend, it is also improved, but you'll see here pretty significant gap if you look on the right, where front-end tasks can be completed 98% of the time, end-to-end correctness 75% of the time across top tier models, but backend goes all the way down to 26 to 27%. There's a lot of opportunity to improve backend work with these models still. I can say this confidently, having been doing a lot of it lately, but they slaughter front end now. And again, long horizon, apparently it's now performing better than Anthropic models for long horizon tasks. Multi-step chain tasks, it's slightly worse, but it's still doing way better. I will admit, it's kind of funny looking at one of these charts where almost all of the bold values are to the right of the thing we're here to look at. Like, they aren't winning anything against the best closed weight models. Like Claude Opus 4.5 is still going to be better than this. But when you consider that it's a fifth the price or less and it's open source, this is a very, very compelling model. Cool. Let's check in on that job we were running. Cool. I fixed it pretty quick, under 5 minutes. Let's see if I can load the page now. Okay, that is a notable bug. Oh, I still can't copy paste. That is annoying. This is one of those errors that's so nice to copy paste. Or this is one of those errors that's so nice to screenshot and so miserable for copy pasting. But apparently their other apps can do images. So let's try out Zcode quick. Hop into a real project. Oops, that is not what I was trying to do. Open project. Up. Code. Work. Round. Go. Cool. Interesting. Is it gonna use Claude code with GLM? Does it not even have glm-5? Yeah. Huh? I was under the impression that this would have that, being it's their product. GLM, is this GLM-5 or 5.0? Error. You can copy the error. There's a button in the top right. Oh, good to know for the future, yeah. GLM-5, testing. I just had Convex asking if they can talk about Shu yet. Hilarious. Okay. Looks like that worked. Cool. Let's do a new task. Let's see if it can take a screenshot here. Fix. It is a little silly that it says Claude code when it's using glm-5 through Claude code. At least as far as I know, that's how it's working. You can feel the slowness. I again want to be clear. The speed will almost certainly improve with other models when they come out slow, or with closed weight models from the major labs. If they come out slow, they're going to stay slow. So if GPT-5 is slow when it launches, that's probably not going to change. If Opus 4.6 is slow when it launches, spoiler, it was, it's probably not going to change. When the open weight models are slow initially, there's a very good chance it'll improve as hosts find ways to optimize them and capacity gets better, all of these things. These labs also have less capacity overall. Very interesting. It did analyze the image, but it used a tool to do it because it can't see the images itself. It's not multimodal. It doesn't have the ability to view things. It just has the ability to do things. Interesting that they hosted the file for us. Where did they put this? Interesting. It can't run bun commands? Is it sandboxed? Why couldn't it do that? Is it not starting? Oh, I know the things they did wrong here. I know too much because I may or may not have been building a similar app myself recently. I don't think this is going to work. So we're going to go back to using Kilo for now. It's cool they're making an app like this, but it's clearly not their primary focus, as you can see for the fact that Claude code appears on my screen more than ZAI's branding does, even though I'm using ZAI's model. Yeah. At the very least, this appears to be working. At least, yeah. What did it just break? Oh no. Let's RM, RF, node modules. Bun install, bun run dev. Okay, we appear to be good. I don't know what it's compiling. It's taking so long, but see if I can sign in still. Give me a sec. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's because I'm not signed in. I still got that. Interesting. Sign in with Twitch. Cool. This appears to be working so far. See how it goes when I actually activate my camera. Hi, nerds. You're seeing behind the scenes a little bit. Mike, join. Okay, we got an error immediately upon joining. To be fair, the Ably client is one of the most cursed pieces of software I've ever worked with, so I'm not surprised it's broken. There are a few companies I can so confidently say are evil, and I've had such a bad experience with them. I'm not surprised that's what broke. The build I'm working on for this that I actually hope to ship in the future is one where we move to convex, and I can deprecate a lot of the broken things like that. Testing, cool. And if I refresh, will the message still be there? It is. And if I do an external quick embed link, will I appear? I do. Nice. Cool. All working as expected. That is very impressive. The fact that this model ran for an hour, updated the vast majority of my core depths, everything other than TRPC, and succeeded, and now is working, is nuts. No closed weight model could do this even at the start of this year. The fact that an open weight model is doing it this early into the year is actually really, really impressive. Cool. Obviously, Simon made his own post as well. It's interesting to see ZAI take a position on what we should call professional software engineers building with LLMs. I've seen agentic engineering show up a few other places recently, most notably from Karpathy and Adios Mani. That's fair. It seems like the industry is trying to move away from the vibe coding term because it has so much negative association, and this is a lot deeper. Oh shit. Apparently Dax is hanging out in chat. Why am I using Kilo CLI? Because you guys didn't have glm-5 yet. Also, that's VIP THDXR. Don't worry, Dax. I called out the fact that it's a fork of open code at the start. People know. And that I'm using it for this. Oh, is Zcode not an official ZAI app? Is it really not? So this isn't official. What? Really? Who the fuck built it? Okay, so FaZe put this in earlier when I first come over to this. Just learned that Z code's not officially by ZAI despite branding otherwise. You'll still see me touch it throughout this video, but yeah, not what I thought it was. I'm going to go deprecate some keys quick. Give me a sec. It is official. Can you guys make up your goddamn mind if this is official or not? It's official. Zcode.z.ai. Okay, it is official. Stop rug pulling me, nerds. Okay, yeah. Better. Anyways, user THDXR. Did we get anything else from Dex? Is GLM good? Oh, I'd missed this, Dax. It's insane. It is actually capable of super long-running things. I just ran a job in it that went for over almost an hour. It was a huge migration too. I was migrating the old ping.gg code base. The only other model that's come close to getting this working properly is 5.3 codex, and it did it. Yeah, where is the 58-minute mark in here? There was one. Yeah, 59 minutes, 38 seconds. Almost an hour on the dot it ran for. So y'all definitely want to get this supported ASAP. Cool. Can we commit the current changes and implement phase 4 now? Cool. It has good Git etiquette too. That was not a thing I necessarily expected, but it's cool to see. I told it once during this to commit for me and make this new branch, and it seems to be doing all of that quite well. This is the most I've felt that like competence thing that you get from just Opus and Codex and like top tier models. This is the most I felt that outside of the major labs. I'm feeling something with this one. And yes, I did that 1 hour refactor on the free tier in Kilo. It's kind of nuts. And I would expect a lot of other places to offer this for free or really cheap too, because it's not the hardest thing in the world to host if you have enough GPUs that are competent and able to do that. For those who are looking for good, or for those looking for near top of, or for those of y'all who are looking for like near best in class intelligence, but don't have the budget for these $200 plans, this is really compelling. This is a big task. Let me start with the package updates planning. Honestly, a new index y'all should start tracking rather than just best new model index is how much of the video am I actually using the model in coding and showing code versus reading other stuff. The more time I'm spending in the details of a code base with it, it's probably a better model. Cool. Thank you for that. Got that later. What else did Simon have to say? Okay, that was basically everything Simon said. Not much there. ZI's Max plan to use what? The new model? Let's see if I can ZAI open code. Just get it set up there so I can use it there. Let me go do this quick. Man, the dashboards for all these sites are rough. The amount of times I've been signed out randomly on the ZAI site is a little frustrating. Pin code MacBook M4 14. Cool. And now I have open code proper set up. And look at that. I can use glm-5 through my coding plan here. Let's try this on a different project just to see if it feels any faster. 80 experimental projects, shoe, open code. I'm planning on releasing this app soon. Anything stand out that I should address before we launch? Throwing it at shoe, see how it does. We should do a quick UI test on this. Oh shit, huge GIF bomb. I'll thank you in just a sec for that. I want to set up a good sandbox for this next test. Let's do benchmarks. And this, I have it. New models, make dear glm-5. Open code. I want to grab my test prompt. Initialize it with Vite, Fun, Tailwind, React, and TypeScript. Make 5 renditions of the home page. Put them at /1, /2, /3, etc. Use your front-end design skill to make them look awesome. Interactive, let me use the task agent. How's this one going? How do I get out of this view? Escape doesn't do it. Dax, help me debug the fork. Okay, Control X left appears to have done it. Control X up. Am I just in a bad state now? Okay, there we go. A zoom out fix that. Cool. This did a legit audit. I only ran for 2 minutes, but it found a lot of good stuff. Like, it actually properly scanned the app, found all the things that mattered, and gave good suggestions. This is a good model. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I'm excited to see how it does at UI, though. That's where a lot of these open weight models struggle. Kimi K 2.5 did a good job there, but remains to be seen how good. Anything subs quick while we wait for that to run. Think from here, I have not thanked people. Jordan Fails with the 1 year. Malik Morans with the tier 1. Solistro with the prime sub. Celise 6791. Oh, I definitely got you guys already. NMG Twitch with the 31 months. I Blue Guy with the 2 years. XMRI Fonzo with the 2 months. Newland hitting 36 months, 3 years, freaking legend. Prom here with the 6 months. Joker with the Prime. Rotating Phaser over 2 years now. Just released my first product, AI learning tools for PDF's homework in around 3 days with Claude. Convex TypeScript helps you reliably, or with reliability a lot. Anyways, on marketing, find the right people, like, who is your ideal user? Who do they watch and listen to? What does that community look like? Like, finding the spaces that you can be relevant in to share useful things. And don't start just by sharing what you built. Start by sharing useful stuff, then show what you built. Slip second with the 1 year mark. Thank you for that. Rotating Phaser, Cheer, saying the same thing. Hopefully that was helpful. Ladies with the 5 bomb. And Beach Lickin, 1341 the 6 months. Thank you all, guys. Oh, the codex routing thing I might talk about later. Probably not going to be a video, but I think it's fair and makes sense. Close the tab so I don't accidentally leak. I'll write them all in parallel for efficiency. Fuck yeah. The fact that it knows it can do things like that is huge. While we wait for that, let's see what artificial analysis had to say. glm-5 is ZAI's first new architecture since 4.5. All the other models were part of the original architecture. 5 scaled all the way up to 744 bill, as we mentioned before. Yeah. It's also BF16, or it's also BF16 floating point precision versus FP8 and Int4 for DeepSeek v3 and Communicate 2, which is a big part of why the model is so massive. glm-5 scores 50 on the intelligence index and is the new open weights leader, up from 4.7 score 42, an 8-point jump driven by improvements across agentic performance and knowledge and hallucination. The hallucination part in particular is really, really cool. It appears to be the model that hallucinates the least of any model to date. How do I turn on thinking again? What's the hotkey for it? I think it just always has thinking on by the looks of it. Yeah, the fact that Google's already been crushed by an open weight model is kind of crazy. Like, Gemini 3 is bad and is now, it was already pretty irrelevant. Now it's done. glm-5 abstains more frequently in the hallucination bench, which keeps it from getting negative points for lying and being wrong, and that is why it got the lowest score they've ever seen on the hallucination benchmark. I have the screenshot for that here. Its hallucination rate is in the 30% range versus, I don't know, Gemini 3 Pro at 88%. Yeah, it's much more willing to say, sorry, I don't know that, than other models that will just lie and be wrong. K token context. Multimodality is text input and output only. K2.5 remains the leading open weight model that supports image inputs. Yep. And K2.5 is also really, really good with that. Honestly, I could see some useful stuff for honestly, I could see some useful use cases where you use, I could honestly see value in something like a generic image recognition tool that uses Kimi K2.5 just for the image part, and then you can use this model for everything else. I don't think any of the open weight models are good enough by themselves to be the only model you use, but some level of orchestrating between them could work really well. I know a lot of people were previously using GLM as the workhorse model and had something like Minimax commanding and controlling it. Kimi K2.5 shook things up a bit, and I'm sure GLM-5 is going to even more so. Its placement on the cost versus intelligence is really, really solid. It is a little more expensive than Chemi because it's freaking huge. Cost might go down, but hard to know for sure. But its performance is a meaningful improvement. It doesn't quite hit this green range, but it's not far off either. And it just kind of makes other models feel way more expensive. So remember, this bottom bar is log scale. So something that is 50% further on isn't twice as bad. It's 20x sometimes. It's brutal. It also uses fewer tokens to run the benchmark than before, even though it is performing much better. That is cool to see because GLM 4.7 was definitely token hungry for these reasoning benchmarks. And that seems to have been mostly addressed with this release. If we go look at the actual cost to run, you'll see it's way lower than the leading models. glm-5 cost $500 to run this benchmark, whereas Opus 4.6 cost $1,500, 3x cheaper. 5.2 high was $2,300. And Opus 4.6 in the adaptive reasoning, where it can reason as much as it decides it wants to, $2,500, and Opus and Codex on X high, $3,200. So between 3 to 6x cheaper for intelligence that is not as good, but meaningfully close enough. Let's see how the designs came out. The fact that you can get design this good out of an open weight model is kind of freaking nuts. What? Obviously, K2.5 can do well, but like that is a really good starting point. Let's check the other ones. Oh, they all do this font clipping. I've seen so many of the models screw this up. It's pretty, but has problems. 3. Ooh, I like where they're going here, but this side is just not done quite properly. Again, I like where they're going with it, but I have some issues with like the backdrop and things, but this would be a reasonable starting point. Like if you don't want to spend the money on the more expensive models, this is fine. Obviously, one of the things that sucks about this is if you have a problem, you can't just screenshot the thing you don't like and say, hey, fix this, because it doesn't have the ability to look at images. But like, these are reasonable starting points. None of this is like as good as what I expect from Opus 4.6 with the design skill, but it's honestly better than what I get from GPT models. I'm impressed. And I'm still so blown away with the hallucination rate thing. That's so cool to see. And if they can get the cost down a tiny bit with optimizations in the hosting, they will quickly end up in this range and be by far the smartest model at a reasonable price. Like pretty much everything to the right of this model is not as smart other than Opus 4.6 in adaptive mode and Codex in extra high. Pretty much everything else is dumber, which is kind of crazy that it's only halfway on the cost index and it is near the top on the performance. If you've ever doubted that intelligence would be commoditized, hopefully the recent releases of K2.5 and glm-5 are swaying you the other way. The speed at which these labs are catching up with Frontier is insane, especially when at the same time we're not seeing this type of improvement from things like, especially when you consider that at the same time, labs like Google and XAI are not keeping up. Like, where even is Grok 4 now? Oh, it's all the way down here at 41 and 39, respectively. Like, how... I'll never understand the Grok fanboys, but especially now all their researchers left, things are a little scary. They're getting crushed. Like, everyone's being crushed by the main two labs here and the handful of really talented ones in China. I really don't think that at the end of the year, anyone other than Anthropic, OpenAI, ZAI, DeepSeek, Minimax, or Moonshot, like, those are the only labs that matter right now, it feels like. Things could change in the future, but no one's moving as fast as they are. I suspect the future is going to look very similar to what we see here. The numbers might be bigger, but the order I would suspect to stay relatively similar. But it is really cool that one of the top 4 models right now is an open weight one. I'm excited. And by the way, that migration I was doing for the TRPC thing is still running. It can kind of just go. And all of this migration I've been doing here, if I was charged proper API rates, would have cost about $10. I almost paid an engineer a few $1,000s to do this migration. And it will just grind it out in the background. This would have cost 100 plus with smarter model, or this would have cost 100 plus with the best in class closed weight models. That is insane. I think I'm going to use this model for a lot of stuff. Congrats to ZAI for the incredible ship. Love the focus on engineering and long-running task work here. It is far ahead of everything else. I don't think I would like talking to it a whole lot, and the lack of multimodal support for images is a little bit rough. But other than that, feels like we're kind of there. It's wild seeing how fast the open weight world is moving, and I couldn't be happier with this release. I am so pumped. While it isn't going to replace my daily driver of Codex 5.3 just yet, it is so surprisingly close that I can easily recommend this to anybody trying to save money or run models that they can host themselves. Curious how y'all feel, though. Are you as excited as I am about this release, or are you just tired of all the new releases? Let me know how you feel, and until next time, peace, nerds. There's a Vision MCP in open code to solve my problem. That's cool. Good to know. And glm-5. Fuck Wabo. Did you really drop a 50 bomb while I was filming? Fucking legend. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for consistently holding the #1 spot now at 100 subs. I kind of want to go a different direction for the branding for this one. Not a bad thumbnail, but I'm going to talk with my team about that before we launch it. I have ideas. I want to go a little crazy with it. 51, yeah, he did another sub right after. Goddamn. How the fuck did someone with my handle typoed on YouTube manage to get through my spam filters and somehow like get a priority notification on my phone, even though the start is a malformatted handle? Interesting. Thank you, Lattice, for the 5 bomb as well. BCK with the prime. I think I got everyone. Cool. This is a substantial migration with 215 errors. Let me continue with the task to handle the client-side hooks. I am not... I am relatively confident it might actually succeed with this. Excited to see. Should have run it with the official one just so that I could like... I should have run it with the official one just so I don't have to wait as long for it. But it's grinding. Let me bun run dev this guy quick. What docs? I want homepage. There's the shoe server. Bun run. You know what I need to do? First, I'm going to localhost 3000. Just make sure this works. Oh, is that breaking because of that? That would make sense. Uh, 7466. 7466. I fucking hate Opus 4.6, guys. I am... What? How did it only touch the doc site? It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. Marker random moment for Opus 4.6 or for Opus versus Codex Vid. I don't know when I'm going to film this video. It might be today, it might be later, but I just saw this and wanted to call it out. I still rely on Claude Code for almost all my UI changes because it's better at front end. It just is. It's better at mobile app design too, desktop app design. Its design sense is stronger. But Opus 4.6 is testing my patience consistently. I wanted to prepare shoe.dev for launch. And one of the things I wanted to do is put a super early work in progress banner up. So I asked it to do exactly that. And it did a great job on the docs, minus the fact that it's like covering the top here. Like it didn't lay out the page properly for it, but it put it there. Cool. The problem is it didn't do it for the home page. It just entirely forgot that there's a home page in this app. What the fuck, Anthropic? What did you do? One, you forgot the home page. It's in the server package. What the hell? Two, the new banner in the docs is blocking the top of the docs. You need to shift the content out of the way of the banner instead of the banner covering the content. Three, we should probably have a link to the docs on the homepage that is in server. It's just docs.shoe.dev. And I'm going to remind it to use its front-end design skill because otherwise it might forget and then the designs will come out like shit. I understand why the whole ClaudeMD thing got standardized by Anthropic. Their models need really, really specific instructions on where to find things as soon as there's more than one folder in your code base, especially the new ones. Oh, it didn't do it. It said it's going to do it. I misread that. It said it's going to make the change, but it hasn't yet. Are you kidding? The page didn't scroll before, and it doesn't need to. There is more than enough space on this page. Now it scrolls. Is it fixing it? Yeah, fills remaining space after the banner instead of overflowing. Okay, cool. It is fixing it. It might not rebuild the server because I'm not right that in a way where it can. Okay, cool. That fixed itself. It eventually got it working. That was annoying. We have our docs link now. And they did not fix the docs. It just took so long. Okay. There's so many things with Claude Code that are driving me mad. What just happened there, because you don't know what keys I was pressing, when you paste an image in Claude Code, it takes time. And the images are often big enough that it has to run local compression before uploading it to their server. It doesn't block the input when that happens, and it doesn't show you that anything's happening. So I just submitted a message while it was waiting for the image to attach. It's submitted without the image attached because it doesn't block or wait until it's done. We even figured this out with T3 chat in our first month. And then when it was done, it wasn't there. It didn't even show it in the little section on top here. So I repasted it and sent it. And when I sent the follow-up, are you kidding? Literally while I am explaining this, it just failed to compact. I do not get how anyone does serious work in Claude Code. It is not a serious application. It is... What the hell is going on? This model, this harness, this ecosystem feels like it is burning. What the fuck? Compact. I cannot believe you guys just caught me running into this live. This is my day-to-day experience using Claude Code for anything more serious than minor front-end changes. And even here, with minor front-end changes, I ran into the same problem. You know what we're going to do? We're going to use a competent model. When the... What's the... Super early whip banner on the docs is not laid out correctly. It appears to be attached to the content and also covers things on the sidebar. Fix the layout. Cool. Now we're using a competent harness and a competent model to fix these mistakes. Normally, I do actually prefer Opus for front end, as I'm sure I'll be discussing a lot throughout this video. But when Opus screws things up, I just get pissed, go back to Codex, and everything suddenly works again. The whole meme of sicking, or the whole meme about yeah. I was seeing a lot of people memeing about how they use Codex to clean up all the slop that Opus wrote. It was funny. It's not funny anymore. It's too real. It's way too real now. I'm sorry for the neglect, YouTube chat. Oh yeah. $200 a month, by the way. If they're not going to let you use other harnesses, they really should fix theirs. Like, goddamn. You've inspired me to possibly do a video on this, multi-gamer. I would personally highly recommend the Codex plan just because it's so absurdly generous, especially right now with the doubling of credit. Like, it's pretty hard to beat. Okay, let's see if Codex succeeded here. And look at that. Codex did exactly what I wanted it to do. Oh, man. Only competent harness and model right now. I would take glm-5 over half the experiences I've been having with Opus lately. The regression's insane. At least I can now push this. Review quick. Eat. Whip banners. Done. Cool. Now the homepage will be updated accordingly momentarily. I can clear out all this now, right? Cool. Marker and Opus crash out one. So there'll be more of those. Thank you, Wabo, for that, or for all of the gifts, honestly. And Alpha with the 5 bomb as well when I was doing that. Appreciate it a ton. Yeah, I feel the same, Cooper. The banner's still gonna be a little weird. I'll deal with the scroll overshoot later. It'll all be open source, so y'all can do it too. I should do the Heroku Dead video because this one's somewhat pressing, at least more so than the GPT 5.3 versus Opus. How am I doing on time? I got an hour and a half. The Heroku vid might go long. Let's just do it, and then if the GPT crash out happens, or if the Opus crash out happens, the Opus crash out happens. Let's get all of our sources ready. The Codex app did burn battery. It got a lot better throughout testing. It might have regressed a bit. I'm not going to cover leaks. Eva is doing some fun deep diving. I'll look at this later. I got to film this now. Marker, Heroku, death. Let's do it. And thank you, Klinghammer, for the sub. Let's get started with this one. I might be dating myself a bit here, but Heroku was essential to me getting started as a dev back in the day. It was the easiest place by far to just spin up a server. AWS was revolutionary in that it could allow you to do things like that, but the experience using it just wasn't there. And Heroku was the first platform that really had that magic feeling of linking something to a GitHub repo and the server just kind of exists. There's a reason that so many developers that you know, love, and learn from today all learned the way they did on top of Heroku. And today we all grieve together. Because, man, Heroku's dead now. If you haven't caught up with the history of Heroku, or if you're not familiar, Heroku was by far the easiest way to set up servers for quite a long time. They also had a very generous free tier for a while. They got acquired by Salesforce because Salesforce, like many companies of that era, was built heavily on top of Heroku. But unlike the other companies, Salesforce hadn't moved off and decided it would probably be cheaper to just buy Heroku and fix the problems we have with it than it would be to move off, at least if you're the size of Salesforce, which is why they did it. Not too long after that acquisition, they realized that the free tier was mostly a money pit, not a way to actually get customers, so they turned off the free tier, which is one of the most defining things for Heroku. That would be the equivalent of like Twitter turning off the free tier. It's just unimaginable. It was insane. It was one of my first ever viral videos way back. And what was that? Over 3 years ago. Yeah, September 2022. Wild. And it's basically just been idling since then. And it no longer is spinning around the drain. It is officially going down. Today, Heroku is transitioning to a sustaining engineering model focused on stability, security, reliability, and laying off our team. Support. I have a lot of thoughts on this one, both the disaster that is how Heroku is shutting down without shutting down, as well as the alternatives that you should explore and how things have shifted over the years, as well as answers to some fun questions like, I wonder how Vercel can subsidize their free tier. Covering all of that and more, and how much risk your platforms might have. But if I'm going to keep offering my content for free, someone's got to pay the team. And today, the only people paying us are the sponsor. Cool. Let's, oh no, spoiler for an ad that I haven't aired yet. Okay. Core questions we want to answer here are, what the hell happened? Can you trust free tiers? And where should you move to? Should be fun. Let's start with this blog post. Heroku remains an actively supported, production-ready platform with an emphasis on maintaining quality and operational excellence rather than introducing new features. We know changes like this can raise questions, and we want to be clear about what this means for customers. Existing customers have no change. Customers who pay via credit card in the Heroku Dash, both existing and new, can continue to use Heroku with no change. One of the things they changed that they barely touch on here is that enterprise contracts won't be offered to new customers, and existing ones are going to have to move over to paying via credit card instead of like big long-term invoices like these companies tend to do. Heroku was an interesting product because it came out before this idea of free tiers and like onboarding people existed. When you were building something that you sold to businesses, you really only focused on the businesses at the time. This idea of an independent developer that also has a job, that experiments in their free time and then brings what they use to work, did not exist when Heroku started. It's now very prevalent. In fact, most companies have a strategy like that, where they make a good, compelling product for people to try out on their own, and then they bring it to work, and then it takes over work. Heroku pioneered that to the point where I was using them for the database for ping all the way back when we started initially. And now I am thankful I moved off as early as I did, because, God, I had so many problems with that database. I don't even want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. The other thing they're not mentioning here is that they did a massive round of layoffs. I think it was over half the team, maybe more. I don't think those numbers are public, but I don't care because this is absurd. There was actually a handful of teams at Heroku that have been working really, really hard to modernize things. They were close to bringing back the free tier. They were introducing features that people expect from other platforms. They were going really hard to try and get Heroku to the point where it could actually make sense for somebody to start things up with. That's over. They just gave up. And it was like they were close, not to the finish line, but they were close to getting to the start of the race. And right before they walked into the track, they decided to just shoot themselves. It's absurd. This was kind of a long time in the making, though. I want to find there's an article about how the CEO is trying to find a new product person. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. Back in 2024, Bob Wise, who was the CEO of Heroku at the time, opened a position for a new chief product officer because the previous one moved down to a VP role. I think he ended up leaving soon after that, but they wanted somebody to come in and actually run product. When a company gets to a certain size, especially post-acquisition, it's not uncommon for the CEO to have too much random shit they're doing to actually steer product. I personally experienced this when I was at Twitch. When we got acquired, Emmett Shear, the CEO of Twitch and also known as the temp CEO of OpenAI, focused almost all of his energy on keeping Amazon out of Twitch. And he did a great job at that. I never really felt like I was at Amazon for my first few years at Twitch. He forgot to run the company, though. Just nothing was happening in product because he wasn't really leading product. He tried and failed to hire a product lead a few different times, eventually left as CEO, brought someone else in. They still have no product direction. And a lot of that is because the CEO is busy doing other things. And that seems to have been the case for Bob as well. He wanted a good CPO, and the existing one wanted to step back, like wanted to take a step away from Heroku. He wanted somebody to lean in. And it seems like he never successfully filled this role. In fact, not long after, November of the same year, remember this was in July, August, September, October, November, 4 months later, he leaves. Bob Wise has left Salesforce for his next career move. Yeah. Losing your CPO and CEO in a 4-month window is basically a guarantee of death. And my honest guess is that what happened at that point is the teams kind of went into fight or flight, fend for yourself mode, where they just wanted to build and try to make something useful. Because if they didn't have leaders to give them a roadmap, they also didn't have leaders to tell them they were straying too far from the roadmap, which is why a lot of the developers there started to I want to say idle, because it was very different from idling. They were trying really hard to build useful stuff at the company without enough guidance and leadership to really push it forward. My honest guess is that the layoffs were probably planned from the moment the CEO left, but it just takes time to do it. And there probably wasn't an exec whose job it was to do all of those things. Oh, it looks like Nitin is that CPO at Heroku that came in. And this is the only post he's ever written on their blog. Okay, it's really funny. They just announced the general availability of the GitHub Enterprise Server integration. This is, again, one of those things where this was a release that was probably planned months in advance. And the person who wrote this post probably doesn't even work at the company anymore. Insane. Yeah. Salesforce laid off over 1,000 employees. Salesforce laid off nearly 1,000 employees, and obviously a lot of those are from Agentforce, and more importantly here, Heroku. Apparently, other senior executives have been leaving Salesforce as well. God. That's kind of wild. Is Salesforce actually in that much danger? That's nuts. I never would have thought. It's so far from my world, but Jesus. There's some good coverage from Mikhail Linzar here as well. They consider Heroku internally to be end of sale for enterprise customers. So they're actively not pursuing new customers that really drive the business. It's full maintenance mode now. Heroku's Git push to deploy was a sea change and a fantastic deployment process. Absolutely agree. To this day, I'm still chasing that high. Over the decade, the $25 per month plan has gotten you the same server with one dyno and 512 megs of RAM per month. Maybe the compute behind the dynos improved, but the lack of RAM and flexibility of the stack has driven enterprise clients in other directions. Heroku's promise was, we take care of the stack, and they charge a premium to do so. Doesn't matter anymore. This is actually less useful an article than I thought it would be. Whatever. Okay. Hopefully we've established that Heroku is dead. They were acquired by a company that didn't really know what to do with them beyond make it work for their own use case. They slowly let the company die because they weren't giving it the right focus and attention, and clearly the leaders were checked out. This is a pretty classic acquisition to checked out leadership pipeline. This happens a lot where a company gets acquired, the leaders just don't care anymore, and they eventually let the company die in front of them. I've seen this a ton. It will continue to happen. You could even argue the same thing's happening to GitHub right now. There are very few people at GitHub that are from pre-acquisition, and the ones who are there now, a handful of them care a lot, but it's not the same. So on that note, can we trust free tiers at all? One of the first things somebody asked when I started this was, how can Vercel afford their free tier? There's an important thing that there's an important thing you need to understand about Vercel compared to other products. Okay, compared to things that aren't Netlify, Cloudflare, and I guess like Dino Deploy. Vercel doesn't give you a server. When you spin up on Heroku or AWS EC2 or other similar platforms, you're getting a box, or at least part of a box, reserved for you 24/7. At any point in time, you can SSH into it, you can connect to it. The box is running, whether or not you have users hitting your service. That is a problem. Not just because you're paying when there's no users, but also because you have to scale in each direction. If your server can handle 50 users and you have 51 of them, how do you deal with that? If your server can handle 50 users and you have 0 of them, why are you paying for that? That balance is a hard thing to strike, which is why serverless became a thing. Serverless was largely pushed by AWS through the most popular version of serverless is Lambda functions, pioneered by AWS as a way to write a function that is provisioned by Amazon on request rather than on creation. With a traditional server the classic PHP LAMP stack, you would write all the code, get everything set up, you would FTP connect into a server that's already running and provisioned, dump the files on it, and now users are served the new traffic. The server just stays there, though, effectively. With serverless, your code is shipped up to some platform and stored in something like S3, and then when a request comes in, a server is booted, your code is put into it, and then it responds. This means you have to deal with something called a cold start, which is the time it takes for the code to be loaded in and initialize on that Lambda. But as long as someone's hit your thing recently, there's probably a warmed up Lambda sitting there from the previous request because they take a few seconds after completion to die so that it can just take the next request without spinning down. This ends up being a lot cheaper for services that don't get much traffic because the services with low traffic don't invoke a whole lot, and as a result, you're not going to be billed a whole lot. Services that get a lot of traffic tend to spend more money, though, because you're paying for the cost of the cold start, you're paying for the cost of Amazon provisioning all of this, you're paying an upcharge for the fact that you're running in this type of provisioned environment, and you don't get concurrency benefits because on Lambda, one request equals one Lambda. So if you have 500 users hitting your site, each of them gets their own Lambda or is hitting one after another person's request finished. That sucked for a ton of reasons. I have a lot of videos talking about this. Just search Theo Fluid Compute and you'll find a handful of them. Or my Cloudflare versus Vercel video I did mid to late last year. That's a good one too. For lots of reasons, requests take longer than they used to. So your request isn't just hitting the database and giving you a response. Now they're doing things like LLM generation that can take minutes instead of milliseconds. So having a Lambda that is running for one user's one request it's expensive. Vercel has since built their own thing, originally on top of Lambda, now similar to Lambda, where they have a gateway that allows for multiple requests to be routed to one Lambda at the same time, which helps them reduce costs even further. The reality is that when you deploy something on Vercel, it costs $0.00 for Vercel, The only thing that costs money for them effectively is when you actually go to the site. So their free tier is going to be relatively safe here. Same with Cloudflare, same with Netlify, same with any other similar platform that is doing some type of serverless deployments. No traffic means no cost. No cost means nothing to worry about. Obviously, as your services start to get more traffic, they're going to charge you for that because it does cost money to run servers, to distribute content over CDNs, to handle bandwidth and all of those things. But the free tiers are super generous because their cost profiles are really low. This is also why things like preview environments are so easy on those platforms, because when I put up a PR, all the preview environment is a bundle of code getting put on a storage drive somewhere that will be loaded when I go to the URL. As long as you're not on the page, it doesn't cost anything. And that's why the GitHub experience integrations with these platforms are really good as well. So you don't have to worry about the free tier on those platforms. But there are other platforms that you should be considerate of. Some that have had back and forth with their relationship with the free tier. The ones that come to mind are Railway and PlanetScale. Railway used to have a super, super generous free tier. Because of abuse, they had to ramp it down a little bit, also because their server costs were crazy when they were building on top of GCP. This pissed off Jake, the founder of Railway, so much that he now hosts and racks his own servers in his own farms. They're no longer relying on GCP for their traffic, and since they're running their own servers, their costs are way lower, and they were able to make the free tier significantly cheaper. Railway is also running traditional servers, which is important to understand the distinction here. When you provision a server on Railway, it is just running. You can set it up to automatically sleep, but chances are when you're using Railway, you have servers that are running 24/7. I like that a lot for a handful of things that I build. Things that benefit from having a persistent connection to the database, a persistent database, just being a real server, especially like WebSocket type stuff. There's a lot of reasons why you want a real server. Shu, my new auth service that hopefully is coming out very, very soon, is built on top of Railway. It's been an awesome experience. I've been using Railway for a ton of stuff for a while. They are a sponsor of videos occasionally. They've sponsored 1 or 2 videos in the past. They're not sponsoring this one. I just genuinely like the platform a lot. There are other alternatives as well that we'll get to, but I want to talk about these two due to the free tiers. Railway's free tier got bad because costs were too high because of the hosting that they were doing. Since they moved to their since they moved to their own infra, their free tier has gotten way more generous. Apparently, it's a 30-day trial with a $5 credit, then $1 per month of free credit. Probably not going to run for the whole month for free on that, but you're not going to be too far off either. To see. I think they built for idle. It's your job to spin it down. Cool. The more disastrous example here is PlanetScale. PlanetScale is a database company that makes your MySQL scale infinitely, and they also finally recently started supporting Postgres as well. PlanetScale's base tier was $30 a month because they are running multiple replicas of every single database on the platform, which made it inaccessible for somebody experimenting with it. The PlanetScale free tier would let you spin up a database for free. That was the exact same as if you were paying the $30, which meant that they were eating a lot of cost. And you could tell. When PlanetScale wanted to fix their books to make it easier to run the business in a sustainable way, they immediately cut the free tier because it wasn't really getting them the customers they were looking for. They would get their customers by going to big companies that they knew were using SQL and saying, hey, your shit sucks. We'll make it 10 times faster and cheaper. So the free tier wasn't benefiting them a whole lot. So that one died. When you're thinking about the free tiers, you need to, if you're worried about losing the free tier, you're going to have to think a lot more about the platform and how it works to know how much risk you're taking on. The first obvious question is, how much does this cost them? In the case of Vercel, free tier costs them almost nothing for all the reasons I described before. In the case of Railway, they are dedicating a server to you, so that inherently has a higher cost. And with PlanetScale, it's significantly higher. The next thing you have to think about is, who are they actually selling to? Railway's focus is, Railway's strength is definitely earlier projects, is getting more and more capable for bigger and bigger things, and we're seeing big companies move to it. But Railway, if you were to like spectrum out, where on like the left side here, it is a hobby project. And on the right side, it's, I don't know, Walmart scale or other giant company scales. If you were to draw like where Railway's strengths are and where they're weakest, I would say the chart looks something like this. Maybe move this bump a little there. Where it's good right when you're starting a small thing. I have a lot of positive things to say about things. Or I personally prefer Vercel for the quick deployment experience, like Railway to do a little bit more config. But once you need the server, it can be really, really nice. But how much you benefit from Railway decreases as your thing gets bigger and more complex. Their pricing's really good. It's a great platform, but their strength's definitely more to the left than the right here. If you were to compare this with PlanetScale, I would say it's almost exactly inversed. Where PlanetScale's benefits barely affect you early on. All the people in my comment section that are saying things right now, like, why not just use a $5 VPS with Postgres? They're all so chronically in this area that they have blinded themselves from reality. None of those people have scaled a real service, or at the very least, they're not the ones doing the scaling of the service. That $5 Postgres tier is going to collapse under basically anything. And that's why PlanetScale exists, because they want to target the people over here. The Cash Apps of the world. That's what they're trying to target. These big, big businesses. So why the fuck would you trust the free tier product they're offering here when this isn't where their focus is? Their focus is over there. Obviously, in retrospect, that free tier has always been on the chopping block. It's always been at high risk. Whereas on something like Railway, the cost is high enough that it's not a guarantee, but at the very least, they're transparent about it. And since their focus is around here, you don't have to worry as much about the cheap and free plans disappearing. So that's how we think about these things. So that's how we think about the free tiers. How do we think about the one that we choose? Let's just list out all of the options that we reasonably have here. I'll break this into servers and serverless. You know, we'll call it VPSs. And serverless. There's a lot of good options for both. In the serverless side, obviously Vercel is still inarguably king. The balance of DX and capability of the platform is pretty hard to beat. Netlify is not a bad option, especially with their recent embrace of vibe coding and supporting all of the platforms that build all the fancy vibe coding tools. Scale's great. I love the CEO. Really good. Has its negatives. We'll get there. And then we have Cloudflare. A lot of things to say about that. On the VPS side, we have a ton of options. Obviously, we can go AWS with EC2 or EKS. Lots of options there. Railway, which I've already talked about. You have Render, Fly.io. Who else am I forgetting, guys? Okay, DigitalOcean. Another crazy throwback. Man, I have DigitalOcean. I have a long ass history. Oh yeah, Hetzner, the classic. That's what I was forgetting. Obviously, there's other traditional clouds like GCP, Azure. The reality is that if either of these are the right solution to your problem, you already know that, and you're not here for me to tell you about different options. There's also OVH. None of the rest are things I care about enough to put in the list. I think this is a good enough list of the VPSs. I'm going to start by diving into the serverless list here. If you don't know which of these you fit under, you should almost certainly start with the serverless options And if they have issues because you actually do end up needing a server, you'll figure that out pretty fast, and then you'll move over accordingly. But generally speaking, 98+% of applications can be served totally fine in a serverless deployment solution. I would lean in that direction. Chaz being a fair point that AWS Lambda should also be in here. You're not wrong, but we're not going to be talking about that one too much. Let's break down all these options and how I pick between them. So what are the strengths? I honestly think this will be easier if we go backwards. So let's start with AWS Lambda. Lambda is not trivial to set up. There are lots of tools to help, like SST, Pulumi, Terraform, things like that. It still sucks. Concurrency is not viable. They are starting to introduce their concept of doing concurrent Lambda stuff. They're not there yet. I don't know anyone who's actually using it or relying on it. Then there's stuff like Amplify, which is a total joke. Yeah. CDN gateway is your problem. GitHub or Git push pipeline, GLHF. Costs are fine, but concurrency sucks. Yeah, it's hard to recommend Lambda to most people. At least it's Node, though. Or anything else. If you can put it in a Docker image, you can put it on Lambda. But a lot of technologies that people like tend to be slow to spin up. So don't think you can just rewrite your Lambda in Rust and it's magically super fast. Sometimes those things take a bit to boot, especially if your wait time isn't on the startup of your code. It's actually on the connection to your database. Good luck, have fun. There's also a lot of other little things like streaming was super broken in Lambda. I think it might be fixed now. I'm not sure. But if you're using a serverless framework, but if you're using a server component style framework that does HTTP streaming, like, Next.js, not fun. And next we have everyone's favorite, Cloudflare. First thing I want to say is that they have one-of-a-kind infra. And that one-of-a-kind infra allows them to be significantly cheaper than almost anything else because Cloudflare isn't using traditional servers or Docker images. You can't send a Docker image to Cloudflare and run it. Well, you kind of can now, but their whole Docker image server thing's a different product and it sucks. I don't know anyone using it. It's super overpriced and slow. Cloudflare's strength is you give them a JavaScript file and they run it on their edge network that has a different layer of abstraction. Instead of handing them a box with a kernel in it and expecting them to run it for you, you're handing them a JS file and 3 layers above the kernel in their custom version of V8 called workerd. They run your code safely in an isolate that doesn't have to spin up a whole server the way that things like Lambda do. That means that cold starts are near zero. It means that their pricing model is fundamentally different because they only charge on CPU time. Other platforms charge wall clock time because the server's up. It doesn't matter how many people are using it. It costs them money. It costs you money too. With Cloudflare, if your request isn't doing anything, like it's idling, waiting for more data to come in, the compute on that box can be used for someone else's request because lots of people are running their code at the same time on the same box. With Vercel, every developer's deployment has its own kernel. On Cloudflare, every single deployment is just a JavaScript file running in the same VM. That changes their cost profile significantly. It also changes their performance profile meaningfully. Check out the Vercel versus Cloudflare video if you want more info on that. They've made improvements since, but it's still not as fast as a dedicated box can be. But there's a much bigger catch. Not Node. Every time I use Cloudflare, I run into something because of this. It's not running Node.js. It's running their JavaScript engine. And because of that, a lot of things don't work. Things like reading and writing files. Things like many of the methods used to connect to databases. Things like any package that runs any native code, like image optimizers, PDF parsing, all the fun things we like to do in our servers with our Node apps. There's a lot of issues when you can't use Node. they've done their best to patch in support for a lot of Node stuff. None of the things I just mentioned have been fixed. All of those are still problems. But most packages have most packages have shims around the Node functions now built in where they can mostly work. Things like crypto were entirely broken and now mostly work. The compat layer is fine, but you're almost certainly going to run into some issues. Like one of the biggest ones I have is stuff like Sharp and FFmpeg. You're not running anything that is written in a language other than JavaScript in Cloudflare. And anyone saying otherwise, like, oh, you can just WASM your stuff, has not tried it seriously. I have been to hell and back for many projects trying to get Cloudflare to let me do something that involves any code that isn't in JavaScript, and every single time I gave up and moved to one of the other options. Speaking of other options, Netlify. Netlify is another Lambda Raptor. Netlify is another Lambda wrapper, but they include all the other fun things like the CDN that make the platform so nice. Everything from here down effectively has those pieces. Really good GitHub integrations. Honestly, really good integrations in general. They have an awesome team. They support the hell out of they have an awesome team. They support the hell out of open source. They're pretty good. I've never regretted my use of Netlify in a meaningful way. They've been a sponsor in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if they are again in the future. Netlify's solid platform. They handle CDN and distribution stuff. But they don't have everything. The biggest thing I miss when I use Netlify is concurrency. Because again, the concurrency model for a lot of these things, including AWS Lambda, is each request gets its own instance. And for the modern way that things work, that is not pleasant. Their solution for this is some really cool background jobs and queue type stuff. The work they've done for their queuing things is actually really, really cool. The bit I played with it for was awesome. They were way ahead of Vercel with the workspace thing. They had it figured out early, and it was surprisingly cheap. I should also mention for the Cloudflare stuff before I forget, GitHub integration, GLHF, getting your Cloudflare stuff integrated with modern tools is still your problem, not theirs. The dashboard is absolute garbage. I actually think that the entire dashboard code base should be deleted and restarted from scratch. There is no recovery at this point. They've had multiple massive global outages because of bad code for fetching data in the dashboard. It's pretty pathetic. And Addy just jumped in saying Cloudflare Pages is native GitHub integration. Awesome. Cloudflare Pages is also dead. They are merging it with Cloudflare Workers now, and they've done a terrible job documenting those changes, and I never know where I'm going when I'm trying to deploy on Cloudflare anymore. I had so many problems the last time I tried to deploy on Cloudflare that I sent to the team. The poor exec who was in the room with me when I did this wrote over 7 pages of notes at a 10-point single-spaced font that she then presented to the entire org and got like half or so of the things fixed. They are trying. Cloudflare does care a lot. But the experience is just so far behind any of the competition that's at all more modern. Like just go try to deploy a random Vite React app on Cloudflare and on Vercel, and then make a change and see how hard it is to deploy on those two things. It's just not pleasant. But what you're getting for that cost of your sanity is way cheaper overall. There are issues with the cost side, though, because they're not very transparent about what free things stay free. They don't charge for egress in a bunch of cases, which is huge because it means if you're doing a lot of data transfer, it is cheap or free. But at a certain point, they might strong arm you into the enterprise plans where those things suddenly do cost money. So if it's free on the free tier or free on the base tier, that does not guarantee it stays free in the enterprise tiers. So know that because it's very important. One more benefit, though. Making sure I have all this. All right, cool. They hired Dylan. If you're not familiar with Dylan, I thought it was Dillon. Yeah, it is. I was right. You fucking chatter is confusing me. Okay. One last really great thing they did, though. They hired Dylan. If you're not familiar, Dylan Mulroy is one of the like wizard TypeScript devs powering all sorts of tools in the background. One of the people that's really pushed Effect TS to where it is today. Fellow JJ nerd. Great developer overall. Love Dylan to death. He was at Vercel and cared a lot about DX there. He's now at Cloudflare and he's pushing the limits of DX there as well, trying to fix a ton of stuff. In his first week, he filed like 20 PRs to the Wrangler CLI and all these other random things. He'll get this all fixed. There's a good chance that Dylan will be able to fix a handful of the things in this list. But right now, Cloudflare has the second worst DX compared to AWS. In many ways, I would argue it's worse than AWS because it changes all the time and is never well documented and nothing ever makes sense. It's actually so unclear what you can and can't do on Cloudflare because the docs are just wrong and lie a lot. It's rough. And now for the exact opposite experience, Vercel. I have my issues with Vercel. Everyone does. Watch my breaking up with Vercel video if you want to see some of them. There's a lot of them, but they are still by far the easiest and most consistent way to deploy most apps. Basically, everything I have shipped to the web over the last few years has been on Vercel, at the very least for the web app for it, because it's just a really easy way to do that. The GitHub integration is great. The free tier is great. The billing model makes sense. The integrations with everything are awesome. Honestly, I can just copy this part as well as this part. Obviously, it's the best place for Next.js, regardless of how you feel about Next. Even I am coming around to not liking Next too much nowadays. Obviously, they handle the CDN distribution stuff. And the parts where we start to really differ from the competition, Fluid Compute. This is the thing I talked about before. It's their attempt to do similar pricing to what Cloudflare does with the CPU time pricing. It has helped a ton. They also have some cool things like they also consistently introduce cool primitives to the infrastructure to take advantage of these things like the workflows stuff. I know you guys don't love the whole syntax of directives with use workflow and whatnot, but it is really cool what it can do. It's a good way to get started with that type of building if you want more reliable services. It is what it is. I see people in chat saying AI SDK, but the AI SDK works on literally all of the platforms that I have here, as well as all of the platforms that I have there. What do I want to talk about next? There are negatives, though. Cost is still an issue. Not just CPU cost. I would actually argue for most apps, the cost difference between Vercel and Lambda is in favor of Vercel for the compute side because of the concurrency stuff in particular. That just knocks costs down a shitload. But they do things with the costs that still aren't great. Things like the $20 per month seat pricing. Very annoying. Every time I have to add a new dev to the team, I'm just increasing my Vercel bill. Don't love that. But the biggest cost when you're shipping real software is almost never going to be the compute or the seat pricing on Vercel. Bandwidth. Every time I see one of those viral bills where it's like, oh my God, Vercel cost me $5,000. All but one of those instances, it was bandwidth. Because Vercel has an because Vercel has a very aggressively positioned CDN that has the goal of making everything as fast as possible. All of the code that Vercel ships for you, the things that go to the users, like your HTML pages, your JS bundles, your SVGs, all the things that are coming out of your code base that are going to the user, those are all on Vercel's CDN. It is obviously meant for things that are small and need to be loaded quick, like, JavaScript files that power your site. But if you're filling up your public folder in your project with a ton of big assets, like 50 megabyte video files or 10 megabyte PNGs or 5 to 10 megabyte MP3s, that's going to cost a lot. It's almost like you're trying to use a race car to pick up groceries. Not only is it going to fit fewer groceries, it's going to use more gas and probably cost you more in maintenance. It is not the right solution for any static asset that is bigger than like 400 kilobytes. They do offer their own file storage product they do offer their own file storage solution called Blob that is built on top of R2, funny enough, the Cloudflare product. I don't know how hard they're focused on it now. It doesn't really seem like a thing they care a lot about. Thankfully, you can use Upload Thing, a weird file upload service some random YouTuber made. Don't think about that part too much, but it's a lot cheaper. Doesn't charge for egress. Worth considering. So that's why I default to Vercel. As long as you're careful about the bandwidth and where you're putting it, it ends up being really good. The GitHub integrations are best in class. The CLI is really good. It's easy to set up. It works with everything. It's real Node, so you can do anything you can do in Node.js. It's pretty good. Generally speaking, my experience with Vercel is that if it isn't something, or generally speaking, if it doesn't work on Vercel, it's probably because it's a bad workload for serverless in general. It is very rare that I find it worthwhile to move off of Vercel to another serverless provider, unless it is some crazy, weird compute thing that Cloudflare happens to be cheaper for. But even that's getting rarer now with the fluid compute pricing. Cool. So let's say you're one of those people that just cannot use serverless. There are a lot of people that is the case for, and there are even more people that isn't the case for, but occasionally have a project that benefits from traditional servers. Let's look at our options for that. Let's start with the easy ones to make fun of. Hetzner and OVH. Benefits, really cheap. People on Twitter will think you're cool. Negatives, your account can get canceled at any time, especially with Hetzner. I've even experienced this. They didn't like that I signed up with a Gmail account, so I got auto flagged and my account couldn't deploy for a long ass time. It was bad. And I've seen that story so many times. I've even seen people's production environments getting taken down because some random policy change resulted in their account not having some checkbox hit. They are known for banning. They are known for flagging. A lot of people have had a lot of problems. Immediately, I get shit for talking shit on Hetzner, but I don't care. I have exclusively had bad experiences with Hetzner, and I need y'all to know that. OVH is some amount better, but honestly, they're not. But honestly, they're also slightly more expensive, so I rarely find it is worth it. The product offering is also lacking. Like, no integrations with anything. If you're using Hetzner, you're managing your deployment pipelines, you're managing your methods for allocation, you're managing your hierarchy for like what servers are being routed to and from, your gateways, your CDNs, everything. They're not doing shit for you. They're giving you a box. Well, they're giving you a VPS in a box that they own somewhere random. Also of note, locations kind of suck. The best prices are for the EU servers, but even the EU servers aren't co-located with other important things. Like if you're using, I don't know, PlanetScale for your database, the likelihood that the PlanetScale database and the Hetzner database are on the same network is basically zero, which means you're adding a shitload of latency and making your service significantly slower and worse so that you can look cool on Twitter for paying $5 a month instead of $6. It's just not worth it. I don't know any serious people who are building on top of Hetzner. I just don't. It's all hobbyists. And that's fine if you want to build things the simple, or And that's fine if you want to just be a hobbyist and really micro optimize your costs. I don't believe that you're real. I just don't. Not a Hetzner fan. I'm sure my comment section is going to be wonderful now that I've said that. Next, we'll talk about DigitalOcean. This is one I have a ton of experience with. The first benefit is the docs. Yeah. First benefit is the docs. Best in class. Chat, tell me if you're old enough to have been there with me. Ones in the chat if you've also relied on the docs for DigitalOcean for deploying Minecraft servers places other than DigitalOcean. I know it's been the case for me. I would not be the dev I am today if it wasn't for the DigitalOcean documentation on how to host Minecraft servers. Look at that, chat. A lot of us have been there. Crazy throwback, but man, the amount of quality documentation that they have had forever now is just unbelievable. Like, to this day, I'll Google search some weird thing I want to do with SSH or GNU Screen or something I want to deploy. There's a 50% chance that DigitalOcean is one of the first results, and not even how to do this on DigitalOcean, just how to do this. And if you choose to use DigitalOcean, you can. They really took that angle seriously of just being a good resource for developers. They have since laid off a lot of the staff that wrote those docs, but goddamn, were they useful for a long, long ass time. Even like pre-Stack Overflow days. Other benefits of DigitalOcean. They've been around forever, so they're probably not going anywhere. What other benefits do we have? Oh God, they're trying to do an AI thing now. Oh no. They have good integrations, not great, but good integrations with things like GitHub. I'll call it decent integrations. And a lot of companies that we use things from here are using them, from Bright Data to FAL to Character AI and more. Like they're a real legit company that's being used by a lot of real legit products, unlike some of the other options here. But what we need to take a look at the pricing though, because it's not cheap. They're immediately starting with their GPU boxes, which is cool that they offer those, but the compute, less great. They do still have a free tier. But droplets, oh, they're now per second pricing. Their base tier at 512 meg, 500 gigs of transfer, 10 gig drive is $4 a month. 1 gig is up to 6. And just for comparison's sake, we'll look at Hetzner's pricing. All in euros, because of course it is. Switch this over to USD. They got boxes with 4 gigs of RAM and 40 gig SSDs and up to 20 terabytes of traffic for $4 a month. This is why people choose Hetzner. It is also worth noting that it's in Germany or Finland, and I don't think the US locations are even visible in the pricing charts, which is fun. Yeah, I think they hid the US from the pricing. Or is it regular performance? That's okay, cool. Regular performance, a different tab than the cost optimized ones, and those ones have US locations. And now we're up to $6 for the 2 gig, 40 gig plan. That's a lot closer to what we were seeing over here. So as crazy as it seems, do you understand how hard Hetzner works to make the price look incredible, even though there are catches. Like, again, we have to hit this button to get real locations, and immediately the price skyrockets. Turns out that the 2 vCPU 4 gig boxes in Germany in regular performance mode, not cost optimized mode, is more expensive than DigitalOcean. And if you want a dedicated box so that you never have to worry about performance degrading, you're now at $14 a month minimum for, again, relatively small box. Okay, it's 8 gigs of RAM, it's a little bit better, but $28 for 16 gigs a month, not great. Yeah, regardless, pricing is reasonable across these options so far. We have not gotten into the things that are massively overpriced. Okay, admittedly, 2 gigs of RAM and 1 vCPU for $12 is a little expensive. DigitalOcean is not the cheap option. It never was, but it's still like, if you're optimizing on that level, it's hard for me to take the work you're doing seriously. Like, a $2 to $5 a month difference across servers is not something I care about because the time it takes to build those things is a lot more. Hell, the inference I use to build those things is a lot more. I'm paying $200 a month for Claude and for Codex right now. $5 a month is whatever. So what are the negatives? How do I put this? DigitalOcean feels a little lost right now. They don't really know what their core offering is. You can even tell from the homepage. The inference cloud built for scale. What? That's not what I've used. I don't know anyone using DigitalOcean for inference right now. I've never met a person who does that. Oh, look at that. They have an OpenClaw shout out on the homepage now. They're leaning so hard into trying to find new customers, which suggests, and this is the scary part, they may be circling the drain. Of the options I have in this list, they are in the top section of most likely to have the same problem that we're talking about here right now. So, yeah, if your goal is to not have to deal with this type of migration because of the Heroku death, I can't guarantee with DigitalOcean that you won't have to experience that again. So know that going in. Definitely feels a tad dated, and it feels like the compute isn't their focus anymore. They really seem to be leaning into the inference side, which good for them, but there's way more competition there, and I'm not confident that they can have a meaningful impact. So what do we have next? We covered these ones. Let's hop into Fly.io next. Fly.io is dope. They were a sponsor in the past. I hope they might be in the future, but they did recently have to do layoffs, and I chose to cut them off as a sponsor at that point because it felt really bad taking money from a company that just laid off a bunch of the staff that I was working with. Really good stuff overall, and they're also a huge member of like the Elixir community, which is obviously near and dear to my heart. So benefits. Elixir native, which I absolutely love. World-class DX. For deploying servers, they have some of the best DX in the world. Things like the way it integrates with GitHub, how you manage things in the dashboard, the clarity in what's going on where, the tools for linking different things together, preview environments, sleeping servers, all of those types of things. Great. They're also huge OSS supporters. They help sponsor everything from like the Elixir ecosystem and Gleam and Rails and many other things I'm almost certainly going to forget if I try to list them off. They're just a good player in the space, more so than anyone else we've talked about so far, I would argue. They are actively, meaningfully contributing to the development of important open source technologies to the point where it is hurting the business. Okay, people are saying they might not sponsor Gleam. Oh. Maybe they're not sponsoring Gleam anymore. I'm pretty sure they did in the past, but they are not necessarily doing great financially. Again, layoffs, and I haven't heard anything about them raising anytime soon, which means they probably haven't. They also have their Sprite stuff, which I've heard really good things about. It's meant to be VMs and sandboxes that you can safely run agents in that have their own primitives that will let them be powerful. Sprites are cool. Sandboxing. And then there's a bunch of other random things that they've built that are just way cooler than what you can do on other clouds. I did a video a while back about Flame, which is an alternative way of doing serverless where you are encapsulating processes in your code base to spin them up on different servers for specific needs. Like if you want to sometimes have a GPU for doing, I don't know, FFmpeg stuff, but you usually don't need it, having your stuff always run on the GPU box would be way too expensive if the GPU is not being used. But if you could have one function in your code base that runs on the GPU box and spins it up and handles it then, awesome. In this example, I'm sorry if you're not familiar with Elixir syntax, my beloved. You take this process that is defined here for generating thumbnails, which runs in FFmpeg, which could lock up the main server or just not be performant if it doesn't have a GPU. You can wrap it with a Flame call, exact same stubbed out function here, and it will return the result as though you just called this on the same box. It's so cool. It's just so far ahead of anything else I've seen for this type of stuff. But we need to be realistic. The negatives. The database reliability just isn't there. Even when I was doing my tutorials and work with them, I had my database just die and fail multiple times throughout. I learned to just not trust the database as many other Fly customers have. They often move their databases off of Fly to their own other alternative services like, PlanetScale. But during dev, it's so convenient. Like the way that setting things up on Fly is so nice. It hurts, but reality is that the database stuff isn't there. And in general, reliability just isn't quite where we need it to be. They had a huge outage recently. They likely will again in the future. They have built a lot of their own things, and a lot of those things are really, really cool. It's why they can do all this cool stuff, but it also means they're not as tried by the industry, and as a result, they're not as reliable. I'll also note with the DB thing, not managed. They don't do managed databases. They just give you an image that is running Postgres. Apparently, they now do have managed databases. I did not know that. That's good to hear. But last time I tried it, they didn't. That is a relief. I'm still going to say the reliability isn't good, but the fact they have managed DB is a cool change. And I would also argue that within these options, Fly might be the highest risk of death. I would put them slightly higher than DigitalOcean in terms of this company might run out of money and die. I just have not seen a lot of big customers or revenue numbers or investments or any of the things that would make me confident Fly will still be here at the end of the year or even early next year. Even when I was working with them, the rate at which the people I was talking to suddenly weren't at the company anymore was a bit terrifying. I actually went to ElixirConf that year, 2023 if I recall. Maybe it was 2024, yeah. I went to ElixirConf in 2024 and was sitting at a table with a bunch of Elixir nerds, including a few that worked at Fly, and watched as they checked their phones and got laid off. That does not inspire confidence. They also have they also deprecate things, not a lot, but enough to be concerned. Somebody in chat just mentioned that they used to have a managed DB Supabase integration, but that got discontinued. Yeah. Not the thing I would bet my whole business on right now, personally. One of the most fun platforms I've ever built on. Not confident that they will still be here next year. Take that as you will. And next we have Render, who has this big migrate from Heroku with near zero downtime banner on top. They know exactly what they're doing. Render is used by a ton of big companies. Their revenue is really solid. They've had no issues raising money. They understand modern tech and PHP. You get the idea. Even the founder of HashiCorp has had nice things to say about Render. Mitchell's a legend. Cool to see. They have a decent free tier. You have to immediately bump to their monthly tier if you want to do more, though. They don't have like boxes you're renting the same way, but they're pretty generous overall. The boxes are powerful. They have a ton of the new GPU stuff. They're really pushing that. Apparently, they've done over 200 million deployments, which is insane. You get the idea. Let's go through this quick. Benefits. Relatively modern. Supports everything. Generous free tier. Likely staying around. They make enough revenue that I'm not worried about them disappearing anytime soon. Negatives. You pay a sub instead of server pricing. A lot of that pricing is hidden under the enterprise custom tier. They charge a separate monthly fee for setting up cron jobs. That's kind of funny. Oh, look at that. Their GitHub integration is still in a very good state. Last time I used it, it was pretty good, so that's good to hear. I'll put that in here. Good GitHub integration. Plus preview environments, which is not guaranteed across these different providers. Apparently, the egress is super expensive as well. Definitely worth noting. Good call out, chat. The $20 tier comes with 500 gigs of bandwidth, $15 per additional 100 gigs. Inbound bandwidth is free. Okay, that's cool. So uploading to it is free. Sending data from it costs money. That's actually a really nice call out. Good shit. I would never fault anyone for going with Render. Seems like a really good option. Honestly, like one of the most reliable out of all of these. Like I would say, like other than AWS, least flight risk too. But now we need to talk about Railway. Obviously, more than at any point in here, account for bias here. Jake and I have a long history. I was almost hired as engineer number 4 at Railway all the way back in 2021. I've watched this company's ups and downs. I've used them for that entire 5-year window. I love Railway to death. I have my issues with them, but for the most part, it's a great platform. It's a phenomenal team, and I'm very excited for them and all the success that they've been having. Benefits. Truly modern. It's just, you'll feel the difference when you use it. It just works great with everything. The CLI is awesome. The docs are awesome. The GitHub integration is great. It just behaves. It also is one of the best dashboards for actually seeing what's going on and how parts are linked. You can clearly see the different services, how they're linked to each other, the domain setup, all of that, really good. The observability is awesome too. I haven't even bothered setting it up yet because this project hasn't needed it. The way they handle different environments is great. You can set up preview environments and things like that relatively well. It does not, as far as I know, have good automatic preview environment creation when you do PRs and things like that. It might be able to be set up, but it's good. I honestly really like the way Addy put it here. Railway makes me smile every time I use it. Yep. It's pleasant. The pricing's relatively transparent and clear. They drop hard numbers for what each thing costs. There's a little confusion around various different things, like the relationship between like how these parts are measured. It's sometimes confusing to figure out what usage you're actually going to get. And then there are interesting things that are free that I'm not confident are going to stay free. So like in the benefits section, egress from their object store is free. But then in the negatives, object store is private only. You cannot do a public bucket. That burned me real bad on a project that I'm now migrating off of railway storage. Free egress is a ticking timer in my opinion. No one offering egress for free can maintain that forever. Like there's always a catch, and I am a little scared of what that catch will be with railway. This is the type of complaint that I might have for other things if I use them more, but as a pretty heavy railway user, I see the flaws more, and the dashboard can get into some weird states, especially around DNS and SSL stuff. You don't buy domains on railway. I bought mine on Vercel, but then I set it up on railway and SSL was broken forever. The dashboard just wouldn't verify the CNAME. It took a while to get that working, and I didn't know if I was doing it right last time because the UI didn't really indicate what the current state was very well. Thankfully, I just left it alone for half an hour, went back, and it was good. Not clear that was happening, though, or if it would or wouldn't work. Yeah. Oh, and the egress does cost 5 cents per gig for services, but the object storage has free egress. But you are paying 15 cents per gig per month. But you are paying 1.5 cents per gig per month for the storage. So know that. I thought it was 15 cents before. That might change some things. I got the previous price for the storage from Railway, or I got the previous storage price from Jake. He might have just typoed it, but 1.5 cents per gig is a pretty good price for the storage. I might rethink some things based on that. There's a lot more benefits to them, though, than we've gotten to here. Supports everything. Best DB setup I've ever had. Like, the way that you link services together and all of that is just so pleasant. Config is generally great. Perf is insane because they're racking their own servers and they're good servers. Also, I think that the server farm I'm using for US West is pretty close to me, which makes it feel just absurdly fast. I'm just very happy with Railway. I'll call pricing fair overall. There are very few things on Railway where I'm like, that's too expensive. And the one that I thought was, I was just wrong about. Oh, they do have one-click previews and they do have previews and one-click rollbacks. That's good to know. The one-click rollbacks is huge and it saved me a ton of times. Depending on how you use the platform, it might even save you a shitload of money. Some customers who were on AWS before were able to cut their costs by 90% by moving to Railway and also get better experience. It's really good. I'm super happy with Railway. I bet you will be too. They are probably my top pick here. But last and finally, we have to talk about AWS EC2. Actually, one last thing on Railway before we get to EC2. They just raised $100 million. They're not going anywhere. They were already nearly profitable before. They might have actually been profitable for a bit. They are not going anywhere. You have nothing to worry about with them. So you're never going anywhere. AWS, also never going anywhere. Super reliable. Like, disgustingly reliable. Supported by everything. Great locations. So you know that they'll network with everything fast. Like, every service tries to get themselves into AWS server farms so that you can have low latency with AWS EC2. The amount of integration that they have with like everything is nuts because everyone's built it. The fact that it works with platforms like Terraform and Pulumi are largely built around EC2 and EKS, and hell, Kubernetes is largely designed around how EKS works at this point. Like, everything is building for EC2. Like, if it doesn't support EC2, I am sus as hell. Guaranteed SLAs, reliability, all the things you need there. Fargate's dope. There's tons of other services you can integrate alongside EC2 within AWS and externally that are insane. What was the other thing I wanted to put in here? Oh, yeah. And most importantly, no one's ever been fired for picking AWS. It's the default, and it's the default for a reason. It is good. But there are negatives. Cost is surprisingly higher than competition. They make it way too hard to see the pricing. Their pricing is so annoying that usually you go use another service to look at it because it's just their pricing is... God, they hide all of this info so deep. Here we go. Sadly, this chart is doing hourly pricing, not monthly. Times 24 times 30. And there's a reason why. A 2 gig 1 vCPU box with just EBS storage is $22 a month. If we're talking EKS, you're going to want the beefiest nodes you can reasonably fit, so you can choose a 190 core Graviton box. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. AWS not only charges a significantly higher price than what I would expect for the tier of hardware, they don't really lower those prices. So it's kind of just like a fee you're paying forever on a box that's probably 6+ years old, and you're paying as though it's brand new. It's bad. It's crazy. Everybody always advertises like AWS is the cheap option. It's not. In many cases, Vercel is actually cheaper than AWS. Just depends on how you're using them. And if you're doing stupid things on either, you can screw yourself. It's no surprise Railway comes out cheaper as often as they do. So yeah, cost is not the thing you are saving. Setup isn't the thing you're saving either. You basically have to build a solution to handle your deployments on AWS. We're talking like there have been multiple $1 billion+ companies built just because setting up on AWS is too hard. everything from Terraform to Vercel is arguably because AWS sucks to config. Dashboard is Cloudflare tier UX. It at least works, though. It's rare when the dashboard on AWS and things are just outright broken like they are on AWS, or it's rare on the AWS dashboard and things are just outright broken like they are on Cloudflare, but getting around it is hellish. Oh God, the permissions. God, that's so many throwbacks. I have been to hell with IAM. It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. It's so bad. So, like, yeah, I put this in the same bucket, honestly, as I put GCP and Azure now. If you're coming to me or a channel or a video like this for advice on where to deploy, don't deploy to AWS. Seriously, don't. I think that covers my thoughts on all of these. This might be enough detail that this is worth doing a separate video of. I'm going to film a couple different versions of this take so that FaZe and Ben can figure out what we want to do with this. I'm going to do a quick overview of my thoughts on all of these so we can have like a quick scan version. Yeah, let's do that. Cool. Yeah. So I was going, or let me grab this section here. Yeah, cool. So my original plan is I was going to do a quick overview of all of the options you would reasonably want to pick from. And it very quickly became not reasonable. I'm going to have a dedicated video in the very near future where I break down all of these options and the benefits and negatives of each of them. But for now, I will tell you the simple version, which is if you can go serverless, you should. If you can use Vercel, you should probably try to. It is very good. Cloudflare's DX isn't great, but it's fine. Netlify's a really good player that behaves well, or Netlify's a really good... Netlify is just really good vibes, but it doesn't offer anything meaningfully different enough that I would pick them over Vercel right now. Cloudflare sucks to set up, but it's cheaper. Lambda, I wouldn't really recommend unless you really know what you're doing. And on the VPS side, honestly, only things here I would recommend confidently are Railway and Render. Everything else has some type of crazy risk. If you want the full deep dive on why I feel that way, deep video about all of that coming very soon. Cool. You know what? I made up my mind. That's the version we're going to do for that. I'm going to film the outro for that, then marker, then film what I need to make the other thing a real video. Cool. Let's do that. Yeah. I never thought I'd see the day Heroku was actually dead. And it isn't, to be clear. Like, it's still running. People can still sign up and pay for a server with a credit card, but it's clear where it's going, and where it's going is the drain. I highly recommend if you are using Heroku that you start moving off, and the services I recommended today are all really good, reliable options. I don't see any of them going anywhere anytime soon, and it is time to move because who knows what Salesforce is going to do to Heroku next. Let me know how y'all feel, and until next time, peace nerds. What do you got for me here? I'll take a look at this later. Cool. Let's do the marker for ending that. I'm going to try a GitHub deployment with Cloudflare in a bit. Probably not today, but next stream, because I want to show you guys how wrong you are about that. I know Conductor very, very, very well, and I and my team have a lot of issues with it, and I'm starting to lose faith. If it was open source, I would contribute, but it's not, so I'm going to kill it instead. No Azure eval, no. Okay, let's do the marker. Pick where to host in 2026. I have no time to do random shit. I am so sorry. I'm already late to a thing. Not clicking links, not giving you personal feedback. I charge for that shit, man. Update Notion accordingly. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I love how my hair looks. We'll go with it though. Fine. Yeah, no, I fix it at least a little bit. Okay, good enough. Cool. Today's video is going to be a bit different because I wasn't actually filming this video when I filmed most of this video. I know that sounds crazy, but just hear me out for a sec. I was just filming a video about the death of Heroku. You might have even seen it already. And that video ended up with a long tangent about various other alternatives that you might consider moving to. Everything from AWS to Vercel, Railway, Netlify, Render, Cloudflare, DigitalOcean, Hetzner, Fly, and more. I wanted to do my best to break all of these options down and share how I think about them and how I choose where I deploy my applications. While I have been sponsored by many of these companies in the past, none of them are sponsoring this video. The point of this was to give you my honest take on how I choose where I deploy my services. It can feel a little overwhelming to choose, and a lot of the advice I see around the internet feels like it's coming a little bit too much out of the perspective of the user and the specific thing they are working on in that moment, where all of these platforms, most of these platforms have real benefits that are worth considering. There are at least 3 options on each side here that are worth thinking about and evaluating before making a decision. And this video isn't just like, this one's good and this one's bad. I'm trying to help you make a mental mapping and model for how to choose the right place to host your code. And in a world where we're deploying more and more services, making all these micro apps and vibe coding, all sorts of stuff, no one's helping you figure out where to put it. And if I keep seeing these crazy Vercel bills or people getting stuck trying to deploy on AWS, I'm going to go mad. I really want to help you guys understand how I pick solutions, and it's not based on who's paying me. None of these companies are paying me today. The only one who is today's sponsor. Cool. I trust you can trim that into a video phase. Cool. Oh, you have to film like the second half, like the outro part of this one. Okay. We've went over all of these options. You hopefully understand what the values are for each of them. If I was to tier these, I'm going to ignore the ones I wouldn't recommend. I'll say top recs. The ones that I would absolutely recommend, I think everyone should at least consider. Railway, Vercel. Railway, Vercel, and Render. All easy, S tier. You're good. I have a specific need tier. I would put Netlify if they have some specific integration or their queuing stuff works really well for you. Cloudflare, if you're willing to deal with the compromises around not having a proper node environment, very beneficial. Or you're just trying to micro optimize for costs at crazy scales, really good option as well. Anything else in here I feel that way about? Maybe Hetzner. It hurts to put it here, but if your goal is to have the cheapest possible thing with insane free egress that's just hosted and you're okay with it being slow and unreliable, it can be fine. I wouldn't confidently tell you like, oh, go move that to Hetzner, but it is an option worth considering. Oh, and Fly, absolutely Fly.io. While it might not still exist in a year or two, it has some really compelling offerings that nothing else does. There's a good chance you run into a problem Fly uniquely solves. Worth considering if you do. And then I have the you won't listen anyways tier. This is for people who watch these videos for fun, but can't realistically take my recommendations for all sorts of different reasons. This is where I put most of the AWS offerings like Lambda and EC2. I would also put things, or I'd also put GCP in here, Azure, IBM Cloud, things like that. Like if your employer already chose it for you, it's fine. And pretty much everything else, I don't think I can recommend it now. If you pick anything here, you're probably well set. If you pick anything here, I hope you have a good reason. And if you pick anything here, I hope it was your boss that picked it, not you. Now you know how I think about these things, and hopefully you can now better understand why almost everything I deploy is on Vercel and Railway, and maybe in the future, Render as well. Yeah. And we barely even talked about CDNs. What a video. I hope this helps you better understand what these platforms are, what benefits and negatives each have, and maybe, just maybe, you'll have more confidence when you pick the next place you host. Let me know how y'all feel, and until next time, please stop flaming me about Hetzner. I really don't care about your $5 VPS. Cool. Cool. Accidentally got 2 videos in one. Cool. I need to leave like now so I can get to my dinner in time. So I am out. Let me thank all the subs super quick that I missed while I was filming that. Thank you, Clag. Regardless, appreciate it. Addy, the Cloudflare simp, good to see you. 38 months in. Barrel of Lube, 8 months. Alum with the 6 months. Consonar with the 2 months. Rip Grem, good to see you, Grem. Hope you're doing well. 5 months in. Anybody on YouTube I missed? Okay, missed a bit. Why no Azure when even discussing AWS? Because nobody picks Azure. People just end up with Azure, myself included. Thank you, Crow, for the 99-cent contribution there. Now let's see if I can raid somebody super quick. I might just kill it, though, because I am so late. Oh, we'll just raid Prime. That's easy. Have fun with Prime. Cool. Have fun, nerds. Tell Prime I miss him, and that he better hang with me while he's in town. Bye. Bye to YouTube as well.